Welcome, everybody. Today is Tuesday, June 9th, and we're going to begin our Foxborough Board of Selectmen meeting. I will briefly go over the agenda at 7 o'clock. We always have citizens' input and anything that's not reasonably anticipated in advance. 7:05, the Board of Selectmen and invited guests are going to discuss the passing of our town planner, Sharon Wasson. At 7:10, Selectmen's update. And there's two public hearings, one at 7:15 and one at 7:25 by NPS LLC. The first one is a drum corps band competition, and the second public hearing is a Gold Cup soccer match. At 7:35, we're going to have a continued public hearing on the Splitsville change of hours of their entertainment license request from the previous meeting. At 7:50, NPS LLC is we're going to have a discussion about the license conditions. At 8:05, Roger Hill will be joining us, our DPW director, to talk about the pavement management system maintenance program. 8:15, we're going to have a discussion and then a final vote on the trash regulations that are going to begin in July. And this is probably the second or third time we've had this on the agenda. At 8:25, Chief O'Leary is going to introduce a constable policy. At 8:35, Officer Ken Fitzgerald, our new officer, is going to be introduced, and we'll wrap it up at 8:45 or abouts with Bill Keegan, our town manager, giving an update, and then we have about a dozen action items to do. So I see Bill Greeter from the planning board, our infamous planning board member, if you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I like to mix it up. If you remember the words.
Long time from school. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So it being 7 o'clock, is there anyone here for citizens' input? Jack Arthurlet?
That's my granddad. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jack Arthurlet, 7 Baker Street. I know that everybody's very busy, but as things stand right now, when thousands of people gather in Foxborough Saturday morning for Founders Day, they're going to see us promoting on the message board an event that would have taken place 1 full month earlier, meaning the message had been there for 5 full weeks. I don't think this is the image that we want to present as a town, that we're promoting something 5 weeks old. Now, whatever the reason, it's embarrassing. But I also think about all the different clubs and organizations, all the people in this town that run charitable events and fundraising events who have been denied the opportunity to have their listing on the message board. These organizations represent part of the heart and soul of this community. And this opportunity has been taken away from them, and I simply fail to understand what happened. I think we need an explanation of what is going wrong with our message board and why we're letting the people down without the message board filling its customary role in the community.
Okay, point well stated and right on point. Why don't we do this? Bill, if I can ask you to look into it.
Sure.
This obviously has a long history well before you got here. The message board, there's a process, and I think that right now the DPW is the manpower that changes it. Mm-hmm. So at least ASAP address getting the May 28th or whatever that whatever event that was off of it. Put something
May 13th.
May 13th, something a little more recent. But let's update. Let's get an update at our next meeting. Whether it could be under chairman's or town manager update. Sure. But if the town or the DPW, if that process is broken or they don't want to do it or they can't do it, there's other groups that can do it. We had talked about earlier the senior.
Put it on the senior work program.
But find a solution, because it's right. There's a lot of missed opportunity and
sure.
especially with graduation coming through.
And whatever the solution, for the love of heaven, take down what's there now.
Yeah.
A blank message board wouldn't be as insulting to the town. than a month-old event.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I think you'd reached, excuse me, you'd reached out to me earlier about the message board. I
Yes.
was thinking it was the electronic message boards that were around town. So I misunderstood your message when you said that. There are several electronic message boards that are being used for construction right now. So I took that as meaning it was a message board for us, it was an electronic message board. So
It's
the
a message board that's been there ever since you've been here, and it's been there for decades.
Understand, but, as far as the message board, that's never been something I've really worked on since I've
Yeah.
been here, to be honest with you. I never have. So, and I didn't know the history about that until, obviously I'll know about that now. But the question is, we really need to have someone that can do it on a regular basis. So, I think, quite honestly, having the DPW do it is probably problematic because of all the things they're working on. So if we can get somebody else to do it, I'd prefer to do that. So I'll work on that. We'll get that.
Right.
All right?
Yeah, and then
That's
just, in fairness, this was a big discussion prior to you
Okay.
coming on as town manager.
Right.
When we looked at putting an electronic billboard there, and a group actually refurbished it recently, and it's been there for a while. But there was some commitments made from the town, and there was budgets and manpower hours discussed, so we can revisit that offline, and then in 2 weeks come back
The
with.
Lions Club spent a great deal of money to refurbish those boards.
Yep. Yep,
And now to just have them shut down, I mean, that's never been an option.
okay. All right, that'll be addressed before
Yeah.
the weekend, and
Okay.
again, back on the agenda in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
Anyone else from citizens input? Okay. Okay, so the next item on the agenda, we had put on Town Planner Sharon Wasson discussion. As many of you know, and it was covered in the Foxborough Reporter, Sharon Wasson was our town planner, and she passed away very unexpectedly several weeks ago. She came to Foxborough in 2011, and she came with quite a portfolio. She was very well educated, very skilled as a town planner, and she did some tremendous things for Foxborough in the short time that she was here. An amazing amount of grants, but I think what I remember her mostly on is the ability to work with all the boards. She'd bring in projects, and she'd work mainly with the planning board, but the advisory committee, the board of selectmen, the warrant articles at town meeting. She was very professional, she was very courteous, and she had such an outreach throughout town in the short period, so she'll be missed immensely. There are services for her and her family tomorrow. Her husband, James, she has 2 adult children, Catherine and Andrew. It's going to be from 4:30 to 7 tomorrow at Robert's Funeral Home, and then there's going to be a family service at 7. And Bill, you may know better, everybody's invited to stay for that as well.
It'll be a celebration of life.
Celebration of life at 7 o'clock. So 2 things I wanted to do, just make everyone aware of the arrangements and share our loss. We'll do a moment of silent meditation, and then I kind of want to have a broader discussion. I invited some people to kind of talk about a topic related to this. So if we could just have a moment of silent meditation in honor of Sharon. Thank you. So it's an idea, and by no means this is not my idea individually, but over the last couple of weeks I've been speaking with Planning Board member Bill Greeter, Recreation Director, Chairman of the Recreation Board, Heather Harding, and Deb Giardino, on a fitting way to pay some tribute to Sharon for the work that she did. Some different ideas that were floated around. And one idea that came up, and I wanted to share it with the board, is where a lot of Sharon's work was, you can kind of see it. You know, she worked a lot on our master plan. She worked a lot on where the town is going. But the grants that she brought in and the developments that happened, you can see it down on Payson Road. Now, if you go down Payson Road, whether it's the speed bumps that are there, the state hospital property, the playground, the fields that the kids are playing on now, the parking lot where the touch-a-truck is, the new fields that are going in all the way down to the football area, kind of all have Sharon's fingerprints on it. So we're kicking around the idea of putting something down there that would kind of personify what Sharon was all about. Now, just before she had passed, one of the grants that the planning board had received with Sharon, they poured a 20 by 40 foot concrete pad down there. So, you know, I was getting a lot of questions a couple weeks ago, and we had pictures with the lacrosse team down there. What was that for? There wasn't a specific plan. It was, you know, build it and we can build a pad and we can do something later. So talking to Bill and Heather and Debbie on different thoughts that could go down there, we came up with, some people call it a pavilion, a sun shelter, a gazebo, something that we can build down there that the kids can enjoy, the families can enjoy, the Payson Road neighborhood can enjoy. If you wanted to have a cookout, if you wanted to watch the kids on the playground or come in from the rain from a game that's going on down there, it's a central focus of the location. And I think it's fitting for that area. So I did a little bit of research and shared it with Heather and Bill. I'm going to pass out there's a company that we had found that kind of equates to an old, and I have some copies if someone wants to pass it out down there. So the idea is not just to order something off the shelf and have a contractor build it. I think what's fitting to Sharon in the service that you did for Foxborough, if you can envision a barn raising ceremony where this company would take the design, they would cut it, they would put it to, have it all disassembled in their shop. They would bring it to Payson Road on a Saturday morning, and what they said they can do is bring it at sunrise, and by sunset they will have the roof on it. And I think the idea would be to reach out to the volunteer groups, the different boards and committees, the town workers, the Payson Road neighborhood, the contractors that work down there. You know, as far as even the Facebook discussion group people that are so involved and everyone has different ideas. Let's put people together and get this done. It's a little more economical to do it that way, but it brings the community together. I see the kids, you know, cooking hamburgers and hot dogs and bringing it to the workers, and you know, everyone working together for something that's going to stand for something that's so significant as kind of a community achievement. So that's as far as I wanted to bring it. I apologize in advance. I had sent out an email last minute to some boards, so if there's an open meeting law issue, you guys can count the numbers. But Bill, I think we're all set now on that. All right. So, but I guess I'd want to ask Bill or Heather or Debbie if you wanted to speak a little bit on this idea.
Thanks for having us. To echo what Jim was talking about, one of the first things that happened after Sharon left us and folks were talking with Gabby and Diana, it was, we have to do something, we just need to do something to honor Sharon. And Gabby and Diana actually came up with the Todd area because Sharon was, she was a mother hen with the staff. She was a mother hen with projects. She certainly was a mother hen with the board and kept us on the straight and narrow as much as she could. And the tot lot was a big thing. So we were actually going to come in front of Rec and select and ask if that was something that the town would buy into. And then conversations with Heather and Jim, we talked about going forward with a pavilion area, which was it's in our plans for the Payson Road project. And at first we didn't have money, we cut it, then we did some reshuffling, and that was added back in. So the pad was put in with the idea of a future development. So this certainly plays into what we were thinking as a board. It certainly lends itself to what Rec wants to do, and Heather can speak to that. So we're very excited that there's this possibility of a community participation to honor somebody that brought so much to the community.
From a recreation standpoint, we have a meeting next Monday, so we haven't officially discussed it as a board, but we've always had this on our list. Initially, as Bo said, it was in the original plan, then it was kind of scrapped for money reasons. But we had put it on our own internal project list. And, we kind of review that whenever we can, and I don't know when it was gonna make it to the top because of a funding mechanism, but next Monday, we're hoping, I sent this information out to the board. I invited anybody who wanted to come here tonight to hear it, and we'll have an additional discussion next Monday night, and hopefully kind of move it along. I mean, I'm only one vote, but I think our board will be willing to work with all the other groups and try to push this up to the top of our list and get this done.
Okay. So yours will be an open, a public meeting, but if other
It's-
boards and committees want to come,
Yes.
tomorrow being Thursday, they would have to post it, and then they would have a full,
Correct.
If a majority came, they could have a
It
full
was
discussion.
on our agenda anyway to discuss
Okay.
it, but if anybody else wants to come, yeah, I mean, would love all the help we can get.
Okay.
We'll talk about it on the new business at our meeting Thursday night, and so I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll post it,
Yep.
because everybody's very interested in doing something.
Okay. And Bill, could I ask you, could you send an email out to the boards and committees to just let them aware of this discussion? I know some of them wanted to come today, but just because of the timing, they could not. So it's not that they were excluded or they don't want to be here, just physically,
Right.
it's difficult under the open meeting.
What would be nice to do, and I'm not sure the easiest way to do it, is kind of to get the group of people, like contact information for people that want to be involved, so that, instead of everybody having to go to everybody's meetings or whatever, maybe if people could email me or you or Bill or someone, so that we can kind of start forming a group of people who want to work on this,
Yep.
and then continue to reach out to them instead of, going in
Yep.
circles.
Do you have a date in mind for an organizational meeting or some sort?
I think probably Monday you can, that'll be the first step to discuss it, because it's,
Yeah.
the rec has, obviously have to be behind it.
Right.
And at this point, I don't know who owns the land down at Payson, if it's rec or if it's planning or if it's us, but those general,
Town owns
the
it.
town owns
Yeah,
it.
It's
Town
so-
not
owns
us,
it.
we don't own anything,
Yeah,
except
okay.
headaches.
Right. Town owns it, rec oversees it.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
Manages it.
Yeah, so it'll be a collective effort, but, so
Right.
let's start Monday,
Yep.
and then after that, we'll get a to-do list going and circulate it. And if it goes the way I think it could go, I mean, July and August is difficult, but the way that, this post and beam construction is, it's money and design. July and August, we could work towards that, and then September, October, there's no reason that it couldn't be, put
Right.
together.
And just so, to cover all the tracks, I had a chat today with Jim and actually the daughter also, because we wanted to make sure that the family wasn't going to be, we didn't know how the family was going to take it. So ran it by them. They were absolutely thrilled with the fact that the town is going to recognize her work. And I didn't give them any specifics. I didn't tell them what it was. I just said it was something to do with the rec area. Also, just as a point of information, one of the things that Sharon was working on, which is a ton of things that we didn't know all the details on, one of them was to meet the requirement for the park grant, was a sign had to be in place with some verbiage on it or whatever. So that actually was installed today, this afternoon. We've had a couple of members go down and check it out. I'm not a sign expert, but it's one of the nicest signs, and I can actually send you a couple of photos I took tonight. But it's a carved, very appropriate sign.
Beautiful.
I checked with Dave Laliberty to make sure that our placement was going to be okay, that it's not going to impact their maintenance stuff. We're going to do some mulch on it so they can do full swing mow and don't have to get out and do stuff. So Dave's bought in on it. I think the family actually went by today to check it out, but they definitely will be checking it out tomorrow night.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah.
So they're
And-
thrilled.
And we'll open up to the board, but just one final thought. My son graduated this Sunday, and I was listening to the graduation speakers, and even Sunday, but also the 2 senior days that they had and awards and all that stuff. The common thread that were coming from the kids and all the way up to Deb Spinelli was this particular class had deep roots in the community. They had community inclusiveness. They worked through adversity with 2 children that had passed in their class over the years. So I don't know if we're getting keys taking keys from the kids or vice versa. But, I see the adults and the school. I mean, let's face it, Foxborough is very lucky. These kids don't need much. I mean, between the classes and the sports and all that stuff, it's nice for them to get involved and see where this stuff came from. Yeah. And Sharon was certainly one of the people that brought that forward. So I see this as a town-wide effort, and I'm very optimistic. So I sometimes speak too much, but pass it over to the board for their thoughts.
Actually, I talked to Bill last week about this, and he filled me in on sort of the strategy and what the image was going to be. And but I just want to say, last week we gathered at Town Hall for a remembrance gathering, I guess you could call it. And the one thing that struck me about Sharon is I was down in her office with Steve Uden many years ago, and there was a particularly thorny issue about the warrant article. And Steve and I must have sat there for 2 hours asking the same questions over and over again. And what impressed me most about Sharon was her infinite patience with the process. And I know that she was bombarded with sort of inputs and tugs and pulls from every department in town, and she was a steady foundation for the town. And her work, as I said before, I hope it continues, but she'll surely be missed.
I took a ride down to Payson Road over the weekend and looked at the location of the slab. It's ideal location for a gazebo. I go into a lot of communities across the country with my job, and every community you go through, you drive by, they have a playground, they have a big, huge pavilion like this. So it's nice that we'll be able to do this and do it for Sharon.
Yeah, I think no matter what we do, it's probably not enough for the impact that Sharon has made on the town. I didn't know Sharon very well. I only served on one committee with her, which was the Town Hall Working Group, which was contentious at times, to say the least. And there were times where some of the discussion was going in a different direction than maybe we wanted it to do. And I would be getting up in my chair, and Sharon would just give me the look, and I'd sit back down. So she definitely had a very calming effect on a lot of people, and she kept things on point. I like the idea of a barn raising, and I attended the same senior graduation events as Jim, and I will tell you, we're taking the cue from the students. They're not taking it from us. That's clear. I just like, if we're going to do something, I want it to be lasting. And we can build a gazebo, but I think we should take it a step further and name, if not all of Payson Field, at least the tot area
That's what we were.
in Sharon's memory.
Just a point of information, we're actually, part of this process is we're expanding the tot area, and Gabby's and Diana, as they're picking up the pieces here, we're going to be talking with the school department so we can use their buying power to stretch our dollars a little bit more. And I was chatting with, full disclosure, so there is some old guy down asking people questions at the playground. It's me. So I was talking with a couple of mothers down there today and just said, what do you think of the playground? What do you think of the lot? And they just liked the fact that where it was. They were appreciative of the fact that the town was going to grow it. There hasn't been one negative comment from any of the people that I've talked to down there. So it's a terrific spot. And Jim, actually, her husband, said today that was one of her pet sections of the project, was the top library.
Great.
So
Well,
thanks.
whatever you need,
Thanks.
Sharon was involved in so many things around town that we probably will never know really how much she was involved in. But I know that the tot lot was her baby, and I think this is very appropriate. And thank you.
All right, so you heard it from the board. We've got complete buy-in and we'll take your lead on starting the meeting process. So again, if you've got some time and you want to join it, lead it, contribute to it, your time, Monday, your rec board meetings is at
7 o'clock.
7
at the
o'clock
booth.
at the booth. Having said that, is there enough seating in there
Well,
if people show
I'm
up?
just thinking about that.
We may have to move
We may have to move it.
Yeah.
It might be either.
All right, we'll figure out the
we'll figure it
details,
out.
but
We'll
yeah.
post it. We'll figure
Okay.
it out.
So,
Very
Mr.
good.
Chairman, you want me to send an email for people to attend that meeting, or would you just wait until?
Yeah, let them know that
Let
there's
them
going to
do-
be a meeting on Monday to
They'll-
discuss
okay.
this. If they want to join it, just be cognizant. If they're on a board, the board needs to post it.
Fair enough.
And it's probably one of these meetings, safe than sorry. If people show up, you just hate to say, go away, because
Yeah.
people have some valuable
Well, I'd like
input.
to see people that aren't on any board show up too. I mean,
Yes.
just people that watch
Right.
this meeting and say, oh, hey, I'd like to help. I'd just like to kind of get a, like a database together of people who are
yeah.
willing and what are they willing to do, so that
Absolutely.
we know how to reach out to them. And so even if they just come and sign in and give us their information so we can kind of get a list going.
So we'll connect with you tomorrow to
Yeah.
kind of get the details.
We're also going to reach out to the Payson Road neighbors that just moved into the complex.
Mhm.
They really worked a lot with Sharon on the tot lot,
Yep.
on the dreaded speed bumps. And so they took a very active participation. So we don't want to slight them in not offering it, but also we think that it's appropriate that they at least.
Absolutely, and Gabby can attest to this. They were emailing us that something should be done, and they wanted to participate. So it's not going to be a hard reach to get them involved. So, Debbie, did you want to?
I just wanted to point out, and I don't know who was here besides maybe me, when that tot lot was built. That was a one-day project built by a nonprofit, Kaboom. I don't know if anyone's familiar with them.
Mhm.
And we were chosen because we're an NFL community. And so Sharon will be in great company because Myra Kraft was actually down there planting flowers. We had Patriots down there building picnic tables, and that whole playground was built. It started at 6 in the morning and was done by 5 in the afternoon. So what you see was actually a labor of love and a lot of sweat equity, but done with Sharon will be in great company.
Oops. Absolutely. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So under next Selectmen's update,
We need to open the hearing.
7:15. Yeah, I'll go through this real quick, and then that way we don't have to open it and then continue it. I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the school department, Deb Spinelli and the school committee. Tremendous week with the graduating class. Everyone got through it safe. There was a senior night that was Sunday night that was run by the underclassmen parents. I think Lori Bibensic and Dottie Dundon did a tremendous job. So when all of the kids that could go there from beginning till 5 in the morning and return safely, that's something you can't take too lightly. So thank you for that. And also thanks to the craft organization. They supplied or provided Showcase Live for that venue, and I think that was free of charge. So thank you to all of those involved. We just got finished dodgeball, which is about 500 community people coming together and volunteers. And again, Kraft donated the stadium for that. Thank you for all the volunteers and that generosity. Quick mention, Father Steve, since our last meeting, has retired from Foxborough and moved to South Boston. It was nice to see hundreds of people. He was our chaplain for our fire department. He'll be sorely missed.
Still Chaplain.
Oh, he's still, that's right. We got him the blue lights. But a tremendous outpouring. Yep. Tremendous outpouring of the community to say farewell. We even had a beer truck come into the parking lot, which we can talk about at a different meeting. And then June is incredibly busy. Just to let you all aware, Concerts of the Common is starting. Today's Tuesday, so in 2 days, Thursday. 7 to 9, and traditionally the Foxborough High School Jazz Ensemble is going to be there, followed just about every Thursday through the summer. So if you get a chance to come to the Common on Thursday night, courtesy of the JCs and courtesy of a tremendous amount of businesses in town that donate for that. Founders Day on Saturday. I don't know if everyone's going to be here for that, but if you get a chance, come down. It starts at 10 o'clock. People start to organize at 9 o'clock in the parking lot across from Mobile on 140. And it's a great day if you have a chance to do that. Sunday's Fishing Derby, again, a couple hundred people, sponsored by the Rec Department. It's another free service. And then next Friday, you don't hear as much about this because of the other stuff's coming up, but we have Relay for Life, and that's at the Ahern School. So if you've got a group or someone you want to reach out to on that, those are tremendous community projects that are going on. So, seeing it 7:30, we've got a couple legal notices that we need to read and open up the public hearing.
The Board of Selectmen, acting as the local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 181, and Section 183A, and Chapter 136, Section 4. Town of Foxborough Revised General Bylaws, Article 5, Section 6, and also Stadium Rules and Regulations, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, June 9th, 2015, beginning at 7:15 p.m. in the Foxborough High School Media Center, South Street, to review the application submitted by NPS LLC for the Drum Corps Marching Band event. All events are proposed for Gillette Stadium. All applications for these events are on file at the Office of the Selectmen. All interested parties are welcome to attend.
All right, so where this is a public hearing, what we'll do is, now that it's open, we'll hear from the applicant. We'll talk amongst ourselves. We'll ask the public for input where it's a public hearing. Then we'll close the hearing. Then we'll vote on it after that. So, welcome, if you could just introduce yourself.
Sure. Jesse Enos with Gillette Stadium.
Mike Asherpan, Vice Chairman, Stadium Advisory Committee.
Thank you.
So we are before you this evening requesting an entertainment license for the Drum Corps International Marching Band competition. We had this event at the stadium, or a similar incarnation of this event at the stadium back in 2005. And it was actually the event that sort of started the demise of our natural grass field. It never quite recovered after having hundreds of band members upon it. So we are asking for Thursday, July 2nd. This event, the start time is 6:30, and we are requesting the parking lots open 4 hours in advance, but parking is included in the price of the ticket, so it's not a fully staffed parking event. The event it begins at 6:30, and then there's an intermission at 8:30, and the event is scheduled to conclude at 10:20. We will request an 11:15 end time just per town curfew, and also to allow some leeway in the event of any sort of natural issues with rain, thunder, or lightning. This event starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. The bands will start to arrive, and there is some assembling in the parking lots. So they'll be doing sort of mock walkthroughs and some warm-up and practice. The group that organizes this, the promoter, which is Inspire Arts and Music, they're very cooperative. They know the drill. They know that we are located in a residential area, so they'll be respectful of the town ordinances with respect to beginning and ending of any practice that they have. There's 11 different corps that compete in this particular competition. So it's a small event that we only have about 3,200 seats distributed. We expect a maximum of 6,000. It'll be entirely in the lower bowl in the East Club, and it'll entirely be on the east side of the stadium. So the club component is actually a sort of a private banquet function that takes place within. So the demand for the clubhouse isn't actually attendance driven. It's because of this private event that happens before, and then everybody sort of filters out into those red seats to actually enjoy the competition. So, like I said, we're at 3,200 now. Maximum we'll get to 6,000, and that 3,200 is actually distributed. It's not even just sold. So it's a small event, but it's a unique event. So we're excited to have it.
Great. Thank you. Mike, do you want to add to that?
We found no problems with this at all.
Okay, great. Short and sweet. So in our packets, there's a letter from, and a memo from the police department, the fire department, and the Board of Health. Several of the staff are here. If there's questions, they can answer it, or if there's an opportunity, if there's anything that's contrary, feel free to speak up, but I'm not sure if you need to present anything. And then before we open up to the board, from the town manager, is there anything new or contrary to the application you want to add?
No, I think the application's fine. We're in the process of working through our insurance issues, so we, obviously, I want the board to make note of that as part of the motion tonight, but we are actively working on that piece and hope to have some resolution by next week. So the note is to try and make sure we have everything in place by the board's next meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
Open up to the board for questions or comments?
Yeah, just one question. It's an observation, actually. This was submitted on February 25th. Just didn't know if there was a snag that sort of kept it from getting to the Board of Selectmen.
No, it was submitted at the same time as I think 9 other entertainment license applications we had, so I think it was just getting processed through the front office at Town Hall.
John, I think that with the new person handling the Board of Selectmen, things had a problem getting things scheduled, but I think that got all straightened out.
I just didn't know if it was an on-again, off-again kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Fair
Okay.
question, yeah.
Anyone else
Is
from
there
the
a
board?
rain plan if it pours? Is this just canceled and not?
It's rain or shine, but they do, part of the reason that we definitely want to ask that 11:15 curfew is because I know the last time we did have it, we had a shelter in place for a brief window of time because they'll perform in the rain, but they are holding instruments and standing on the middle of the field, and if it becomes a thunder and lightning situation, it does need to be paused indefinitely, so.
Right, and the Harvard Pilgrim race is the following night, so
Yes.
there won't be any interaction with that.
No, well, there will be a little bit because they're actually, they'll be doing bib pickup for the finish at the 50, which is a really well registered road race. So we'll end up having some crossover between the two. We might even do some cross promotions where you can purchase a discounted ticket closer to the, as you pick up your bib to DCI, and hope that it actually generates, just the pedestrian traffic generates some sales to the event.
Anyone else on the board?
Without any weather delays or concerns, what's the actual scheduled timeframe?
So start at 6:30, 8:30 intermission for 25 minutes, and then end at 10:20.
10:20.
And that's if everything runs, perfectly.
So you're leaving about a 45-minute window?
Yes.
Yep.
You said the practice starts at 10 a.m., so there'll be activity from actually 10 a.m. all day long,
Yes.
The noise level, will you be notifying the residents that what's going on? Because there'll be, I don't know what the noise level is going to be, but do you usually send out like an e-blast or something to the...
We'll have a notice that'll be published. It's included in the mailer, the Partners in Patriotism newsletter, which should be in mailboxes at the end of next week.
Mhm.
So people in the community will be aware of it.
Okay, just as long as people know that possibly, there'll be a noise level all day long.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, anyone else from the board? Where it's a public hearing, anyone from the audience? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Motion made and second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hearing is closed. Now we can deliberate. Any deliberation? Do I hear a motion in the affirmative?
I make a motion that the board approve the Drum Corps Marching Band event for Thursday night, July 2nd. But this approval will be conditioned upon the town receiving evidence of insurance coverage from the applicant that is acceptable to the town of Foxborough, and that evidence of such coverage shall be received by the town no later than June 23rd, 2015, or the next meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes 5-0. Thank you. And the second hearing, we can read that into the record.
Board of Selectmen acting as local licensing authority pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 181, and Section 183A, and Chapter 136, Section 4, Town of Foxborough, Revised General Bylaws, Article 5, Section 6, and also Stadium Rules and Regulations, will conduct a public hearing on Tuesday, June 9th, 2015, beginning at 7:25 p.m. in the Foxborough High School Media Center, South Street, to review the application submitted by NPS LLC for the CONCACAF Gold Cup Honduras versus Panama and USA versus Haiti soccer match event. All events are proposed for Gillette Stadium. All applications for these events are on file at the Office of Selectmen. All interested parties are welcome to attend.
Thank you, Chris. And similar to the last hearing, there's letters in the file in memos from the Police Department, Fire Department, and Board of Health. So you want to present?
So this event is the CONCACAF Gold Cup, which is a FIFA-sanctioned event. We're asking for 2 matches, the first of which will begin at 6, and then the second is supposed to begin at 8:30 p.m. This event is Friday, July 10th. Ticket prices for this event are between $30 and $150. There's about 12 different price points, which is typical. We see that a lot with our international soccer matches. And the anticipated attendance is about 25,000. So this will be contained entirely to the lower bowl. This will be the largest event that we will have on site with the opening of the new bridge. So the new expanded bridge in our north end zone, which has been being built out throughout the off-season, will be open and operational for this event. So it'll be interesting to see how the pedestrian traffic flows, the best way to management. I mean, we're obviously extremely excited to have a full lower bowl event where it'll be essentially almost completely full, and see how the ebb and the flow of the crowd works with the new expansion. With this event, we're requesting the standard parking lot open time 4 hours in advance, but we obviously will work with public safety to secure that. And it is a paid parking event, so we do anticipate a decent amount of tailgating like we do see with all of our international soccer matches, but in a much smaller scale because, again, we're only anticipating about 25,000 people.
Mike?
We didn't see anything of major concern, but just from a historical standpoint, when we get the Central American teams coming in here, they can get kind of exuberant from time to time. And traffic coming in
On a Friday.
on a Friday night, I don't know if you remember the last time Brazil played here, things that kind of messed up out in Route 1, but it happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just a question, are you going to be replacing the infield grass, or is it going to be similar to what you did with the other
Yes, to the
game?
best of my knowledge, it's going to be a grass field.
Okay.
Yes, which is standard for any FIFA-sanctioned match.
Okay.
And Chief, could I ask you, Mike's bringing up a point on the Friday night with the crowd that's coming in that might not be coming in all of the time. Special provisions for traffic on a Friday night?
We'll be talking with the state police about the management of the lots where it's going to be a paid parking situation. Probably some of the satellite lots will open. So I'll be talking with the state police about the traffic management plan ahead of time, given it will be at peak commuter hours that we'll start seeing the fans arrive.
Okay. Very good, thank you. And if you couldn't hear him at home because he's not in a microphone, he's going to work with the state police and the lot owners.
Can I have a question?
Yep.
I have a question for Mike. In the Stadium Advisory Committee report, it says the department is currently working with the stadium to replace the 2 12-year-old tactical support patrol vehicles. Are those the golf carts that we've been talking about for the last few years?
Defer that to the police chief.
Yes, that's correct. The golf carts are running into an end-of-a-lifetime situation. And I've started a conversation with the stadium group and with Mark Bridge when we were away with the NFL trainer earlier this week.
Okay, because this has been ongoing for at least over a year, maybe 2 years.
I'm sorry, but the camera can't pick you up, and then you know how they like to look at you from home.
The prior concerns had
It's
to
not
do
your
with
voice.
the fire department, and those vehicles were replaced, so this is new this year.
Yeah, I think that's the confusion. Those were TSUs that the fire department
Right, the
used to
fire
have those
department
replaced.
had them for patient pickup in remote areas that they couldn't get ambulances in. And we are looking to have a more vibrant type of vehicle because we're expanding some of the areas that they'll be traveling due to the new entry point off of 140, as well as getting around in the lots more effectively than in a golf cart, where it's not a college campus that lends itself to easy travel.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else from the board?
The bridge that you were speaking about in the north end zone, where exactly is that going to be located?
So it's actually the existing bridge. So if you're looking at the north end zone, you'll see the lighthouse, which is a
Yeah.
tall structure. And then it connects our east and our west concourses. And so it was just a really narrow bridge, and it has the sort of navy blue decorative trussing underneath it.
Okay.
It arches over. It's the field entrance as well. So if you're going to a concert, it's what you're
Okay.
walking underneath in order to get onto the field. So that was always, up to code, and it worked when the stadium was originally designed. But we found that it can create a little bit of a log jam, and it can just be an uncomfortable experience for people trying to pass between the two sides of the stadium. So we started actually construction as soon as we knew we were out of the building. The Patriots were done for the season, and they've been working around the clock. So it's scheduled to actually open next week, I believe. So we'll have a couple Revs matches, some smaller events. This will be the largest event that it'll be on.
So you're just making it wider?
That's it, yep, just expanding it.
Mr. Chairman, I could just say, we were out a couple weeks ago to view all the changes that were going on in the stadium, and I can tell you, it's impressive what they've actually made that a very nice area for people to pass through now. It's almost two to three times the size of what
Yeah.
it was.
It's
It's significantly larger.
big expansion. It's a great spot to stand, especially during a concert. If you're just trying to get up and you're walking around and you want to take a break, it's a different vantage point, and we couldn't allow people to stand because it became way too crowded. So now it'll just create a better experience for people inside the facility.
Any more questions from the board?
Is Putnam Parkway going to be open for this event, or access off of North Street?
Access off of North Street, yes, but I don't believe we're going to be issuing parking passes for it. So some limited vehicles and obviously emergency vehicles.
Anyone else from the board? Anyone from the audience? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
I make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Discussion?
As long as all the chiefs are good with it.
Do I hear a motion? In the affirmative?
I make a motion, I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the Gold Cup soccer match on Tuesday, no, it's not Tuesday, it's Friday, July 10th. This approval is conditioned upon the town receiving evidence of insurance coverage from the applicant that is acceptable to the town of Foxborough, and that evidence of such coverage shall be received by the town no later than June 23rd, 2015, or by the next meeting of the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
Okay, motion made with condition and seconded. All those in, any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of George Bell, Committee Chair, I'd like to extend our invitation to the selectmen, town administrators to join us one evening at the stadium see what we do and the behind-the-scenes look at what goes on at the event.
I think we'll take, yeah.
Do we have a date in mind?
Or no, any event that
Any event.
that you'd like to come and observe. The Stadium Advisory Committee is represented at every full stadium event.
Okay. So in that event, obviously, we're not sitting down to watch the game, but we'd be able to go down to the bowels of it, look at the holding areas and the security and all that stuff. Sure.
Hopefully it'll be empty.
That's the plan, right?
Just don't put us in it.
Thank you.
All right.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
No, we went to that a few years ago. We did it in pieces, I don't think we...
Next item on the agenda is the continuation of the public hearing from the last meeting for the change of hours on the entertainment license, and I see Paul Holian. And I think in our packet, we had the same information from the last hearing. Welcome. If you could just introduce yourself for the record.
Hello, my name is Paul Holian. I'm one of the owners of SV Patriot Place, otherwise known as Splitsville, Howl at the Moon.
And I'm Dan Glaberson, General Manager of Splitsville and Howl at the Moon in Patriot Place.
So if the board recalls, you had come in at the last meeting to extend your hours earlier by 2, from 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock, for various reasons. There was some discussion, and there was also some ambiguity, maybe it was on our end, on the closing hours at the other end, and I think we understood that you were keeping the closing hours the same. So basically, we're looking for a 2-hour earlier start on the entertainment. We didn't close it, we continued it and asked you to come back. No rules about this on a specific presentation, but wanted you to come in just to kind of present a little bit of why you needed it and the benefits and just continue that dialogue.
Yes, and thank you for allowing us to come back. And I did have the opportunity to talk to Town Manager and Chief O'Leary to clarify the ambiguity, and we apologize for that. The request is actually to start the entertainment on Thursdays at 6 versus 8, but not change the end time of the entertainment. So that's the request. To give you a little background, we've been in business now 10 months out at the stadium. I think we've operated well. I think we've operated cooperatively with the town, with the various departments within the town. I think we've proven through the last 10 months that the use that we brought, or we were bringing to the town, is additive not only to the town but to the complex in general, and is a good business. I think what we've also realized is over time, like any new business, you learn as you grow. And through the last 10 months, one of the things we've learned is, well, the weekend business out there is pretty good. The weekday business, it can be spotty at times. But where there is business is usually early. I mean, in a residential community like this, the business that exists tends to exist early, and we want to try to do everything we can to appeal to that earlier business. And we've focused on this one small provision because we know there's sensitivities to the overall entertainment license, and we really do want to demonstrate a full year of performance before we address anything else in this, and we did want to focus on this one small provision. Basically, because we see an opportunity on Thursday, specifically earlier, to add to our core, business, which is bowling and food, to add a component of entertainment. And we don't view that entertainment as being non-family friendly. Quite the contrary, we hope it is actually additive to the family experience on Thursday. We're not envisioning changing the over 21 policy because the hours of the show move up a little bit. We did a JC event last year on your Commons, and it was very family friendly. There's a lot of young children there. And anyone who's ever been to a game day where our show has been presented on a game day, a lot of parents who go to the games will come in with their kids. And so we don't view this change as anything more than us, being allowed to provide a little different service and a little different experience to try to differentiate ourselves from other businesses in the complex and other businesses, quite candidly, in the town that we compete with for that limited business that does exist on a Thursday. And that's simply the request we're trying to make here.
Okay. Dan, did you want to?
No,
you were here last time.
He kind of summed it up, I guess you'd say, and I agree, and I think it would be extremely beneficial to our operation down at Patriot Place.
Okay.
I mean, to give you a color, Disney does music, live music in their complex in Splitsville, Disney, all the time, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And so I want to try to break the view that the music somehow is inherently only geared towards a 21-plus crowd. Mm-hmm. I think there are times that is definitely the case, but the music is just that. It's just music. Patriot Place, actually, CBS Scene just announced that they're going to be doing live music starting at 4 on Fridays. And so, that's the kind of dynamic we're competing with, and we're just looking for a little bit of flexibility.
Okay. So, I guess in summary, you're still going to come back in 2 months, so that will represent 1 year of full working for discussion, because that was a condition on the earlier approval, but this is just an interim 1 day, 2 hours early on a Thursday in the meantime.
Yeah, I think we're looking at this, we see an opportunity from a business perspective with the summer here, that there may be a little more activity earlier on a Thursday, mm-hmm. and we're looking to, hopefully take advantage of that. Our intention would be to come back in a full year once we've demonstrated a full year of track record, and make a little bit more of a robust presentation in terms of our track record, our performance with violations, our performance with working with the town and the chief, and trying to be a good corporate citizen. And but that would be for once we've demonstrated a full year of performance.
Great. Okay, thank you. I'll open up to questions, comments from the board.
Thank you. Yeah, we mentioned this last week, and that that's the hours between 6 and 8 is dinner time, really, and that was the premise of the Splitsville was it was going to be a bowling alley with good food, and it was going to be attracting families, and dinner time was important. This is a shift. Now we are trying to put the entertainment into that dinner time slot, and correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it a condition of the license that if you do have entertainment, the under 21s have to leave?
No, the actual provision, if I remember correctly, is there's no one under 21 that can be located in the Howl Bar area, as it's called, so the area up near the stage.
Okay,
But the bowling lanes, the seating, general seating, because it can be under 21.
Okay.
And that is the case on a game day.
So is the dinner time business such that you have to supplement it with entertainment?
I think it creates a differentiator, for people, and mind you, that it's not so much, loud music as more background music, and so I don't think it's that adversarial to dinner as you may think. I think it can be additive, and I think and much as the CBS scene, like I said, they're doing it at 4 o'clock on Fridays. I think it can create a different experience that some people may find appealing early in the night. I mean, one thing about suburban locations is people don't usually go home on a Thursday and then come back out for the night. They come out and then they go home, and so the opportunity for that after-work business, whether it be dinner or bowling or whatever else, is usually tends to be early in the night. I do think it gives us an opportunity to differentiate ourselves from Mick Morgan's or from Waxy's or from Bar Louie, for that matter. And so that's what we're looking to do. We're not trying to change the fundamental dining experience. We're just trying to enhance it potentially.
Anyone else on the board?
I just want to say that since the reinception of the Fox Cares Group for liquor license holders, Dan and Paul have been representative at every meeting. They're paying their dues. They are committed to responsible service. So I think, if they come to us with a proposal that they feel will help their business, I think we should seriously consider it. So.
Okay. The last meeting, I was pretty much fine with all this. It was just the confusion of the closing hours, and I think it's definitely worth a try for 10 months. You guys have been great, and I have no problem trying this out.
Ginny?
Yeah, when we granted the license, the liquor license to Splitsville, it was, the license goes to Splitsville, and Howl at the Moon was just like an entertainment component, but it was the Splitsville that was really the driving force. And if you're going to start earlier, that means the Howl at the Moon is a little more of the driving force. And I characterized it last week as the last meeting, as the tail wagging the dog. I mean, Splitsville was supposed to be family entertainment, a bowling venue that served food and had drinks and, family component. And I think when you introduce Howl at the Moon at 6 o'clock, that kind of changes the dynamic of Splitsville. And that's my concern. Entertainment, let's face it, Howl at the Moon is more like a nightclub atmosphere. And when we were discussing the license transfer, it was stressed that Splitsville was the family bowling, not Howl at the Moon nightclub aspect. So that's why I would not be in favor of changing the hours to start at 6. I think if entertainment of that sort, the Howl at the Moon type entertainment, is an 8 o'clock type of entertainment, not 6.
I would respectfully say I don't think they are two different things. I think you can have entertainment and family friendly. And again, I point to the charity event we did with the J.C.'s on your own Foxborough Town Commons, which was Howl at the Moon entertainers in Foxborough Town Commons performing. And I know David was there, and Jim was there. I think the chief was there. There were plenty of kids who had a great time, 7, 8, 9-year-olds listening to music. At the end of the day, Howl at the Moon is music. Now, I understand the concerns because when it's applied at a late night atmosphere, it has a different appeal, a different perspective. But this is just music we're looking to do, and play music earlier. And I don't think, I appreciate your perspective on it, but I don't think it's, you have to have one and not the other. I think you can have live entertainment and still have a family atmosphere in a venue, in my personal view.
So 2 months down the road, when you've had a year experience, CBS Scene has started at 4 o'clock, are you going to come back to say, you know what, thanks for the 6 o'clock, but you know, now we really have to do 4 o'clock because we're competing with CBS Scene? At what point does Splitsville lose its identity and it becomes Howl at the Moon?
I mean, I
Which
think
was something that we didn't want, the nightclub aspect of Howl at the Moon in Splitsville. We were very, some of the members on the board were very adamant about that. Splitsville was presented as a family bowling. That's what was pushed. That was what we had a petition for bowling. That was what was stressed. It was not stressed a Howl at the Moon nightclub type atmosphere to start at 6 o'clock. 8 o'clock, okay.
And I would just tell you that you're not going to have a nightclub atmosphere at 6 o'clock. This is what we're really talking about, is just music, nothing more, nothing less. And I think you can't differentiate between Howl at the Moon and Splitsville. We have a bowling business that has live entertainment in it. That's all that is up there right now. And when you say, oh, we're going to come back and look for a 4 o'clock, I think when we come back in 12, when our 12 months are up, and I don't want to prejudge what the request would be, but we're the only venue in the town that has this kind of restrictive license, and I understand why it was put in place. I truly appreciate the concerns when we went into this deal. But I'd like to think that after 12 months of performance and after 12 months of history with the public safety department in this town and interacting with the community, that people can now look at their experience with us and say, this is a good operation, this is a good business, and let's just issue it a license like we would issue any other venue a license. Any other CBS Scene, Bar Louie, Waxy's, whatever else is in the town has an entertainment license. But again, I don't want to prejudge that today. I'm just simply looking today to try to open or play music 2 hours earlier on a Thursday is all we're requesting.
You said that you thought the license was restricted more than any other venue. You came in with a different, you came in and I described it as a 2-for-1. You had a Splitsville component and you had a Howl at the Moon component. That was a 2-for-1. No other venue in town is like that. So if we put restrictions on it, there was a reason we put restrictions on it. And one of the restrictions was you start the Howl at the Moon entertainment at 8 o'clock.
And as I said, I appreciate the concerns at the time. I really do. And I understand why the restrictions were put in place. I do. And now, and hopefully in 2 months from now, we will all have 12 months of experience as us, as an operation, as a business, and everyone can make their own judgment if the restrictions should stay or not stay. Today, I'm simply just asking to start the music a couple hours early on a Thursday.
All set, Jay?
Mm-hmm.
So my input, actually over the last week or two, I actually contacted Dan to go out there. We met late morning just to kind of look at the businesses. I also went back on a Thursday night. I think I missed you, but it was the night of the school fundraiser. So I got there about 8:30. Let me backtrack, and I was part of those public hearings when you first came in. Howl at the Moon is a nightclub. I went into Boston. I saw, and my apprehension was, do we want that here? It's just as a nightclub. What I saw Thursday, it was probably, I got there at 8:30 till 10:30 maybe I was there. There was families bowling, fathers, sons, mothers, daughters, whatever, bowling, and it worked pretty well. I didn't see a lot of rowdiness. I went back again Friday night. It was a night of the dodgeball tournament. Same thing. I mean, it wasn't packed. There was entertainment. So the apprehension I had from a year ago going into Boston was kind of quelled over these 8 months and 10 months, and especially last week when I saw it. So I think the synergy between the bowling and the nightclub atmosphere works. Is it going to work better or worse those 2 hours early? I understand why you're doing it, because you want to capture that get out of work, go right there rather than go later. But I'm not as concerned as I was a year ago on that early start. And if it's for one day to try it, I think this 10 months, we both sides have learned a lot on what it is and what it isn't. So I'm comfortable with the, and I'll be honest with you, when I asked Dan, for some of the information, I think, and I'm hoping you don't mind me sharing this, he was not going to come back. He was a little nervous about what the presentation was going to be, if he needed attorneys, he needed presentation boards and architects. And I asked him just to come in and have a dialogue with us on why he's doing it and what the benefits for, the business is. And that's kind of what I expected. And I think sometimes this is missing, the dialogue, when we bring attorneys and talk about other stuff. We did that a year ago, and we'll probably revisit in 2 months. But I'm comfortable with the 2 hours on a Thursday, in context to the apprehension from a year ago. Any more discussion? Okay. So where this is a continued public hearing, we'll close the hearing. But is there anyone in the audience that has something to say or add, comment?
Hi, Janet Sullivan, Kennedy, Cohasset Street. I went to that in, I think it was August, you guys did that up at the Common, and there was a lot of families there. And the music was family friendly. There was a lot of Disney, and the performers were wonderful. And I've been to Howard the Moon a couple of times, and no disrespect to any of you, but it's not a nightclub. A nightclub would be Rumors in Boston and those other places. And I've dragged my husband, he likes to sit home and watch CNN. And he's at the movies now, so he doesn't know. But he didn't have a problem either. He thought it was great because there's bars where people can, like you said, having the dinner with the kids and bowling. And Howard the Moon is separate. And like if you go to a restaurant or anywhere else, they have music. And it's family-friendly music. And that's all I have to say. I think it would be a good idea and give them a chance.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else from the audience? Seeing none, do we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Closing, or?
Oh, we're closing the public hearing.
Yeah, we need to close the hearing,
Sure.
and then we'll have discussion on the vote. So again, all those in favor of closing the hearing?
Sure.
5-0. Now a motion in the affirmative.
I move that the board approves the change of hours for Splitsville on Thursday nights from 8 p.m. to 6 p.m.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion made to approve, seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries 3-2. Okay, thank you.
Very much, appreciate it.
Okay, 8:10. What are we doing on schedule? 5 minutes. So 8:05, we have Roger Hilvard, DPW Director, to talk about the pavement management system. Oh, I'm sorry, 7:50, a little behind. NPS license conditions. We don't have a presenter, but this is something that we put on the docket ourselves to discuss.
Well, I'll also lead the discussion by saying that we had this on the agenda primarily because we were working on some things that we hadn't been able to bring closure to. And but though I will say that we had a meeting this week in my office, which I thought was productive from both ends to gather as much information as we could. We're still waiting for some information to arrive, and it will be a follow-up meeting next week. But I think both parties understand the needs of what needs to take place prior to July 1, so that the town's coverage is the protection of the town is in place for all the events that occur up at the stadium. So we are, I think it was a good discussion because we really sort of highlighted some of the concerns that we had. We want to make sure this was strictly a fact-finding discussion to try and understand all the information that we needed to have, and then we've asked MPS to come back with that information, which they've agreed to do. So we are doing a follow-up meeting next week. Hopefully all our issues will be addressed at that time, and if not, then we'll certainly have to address it differently, but I'm hopeful that that will be the case.
Okay, any questions from the board?
Now, Bill, to the best of my recollection, everything that we have licensed after July 1st has had that proviso?
The condition of that, they
Condition of
said that the
license.
insurance has to be in place, right?
Do you think this Wednesday it'll all be wrapped up, done deal?
I'm certainly hopeful of that, yeah. I mean, I can never predict that, of course, until the meeting actually takes place, but I certainly don't want to prejudge anything, but I think that both parties are clearly willing to try and figure this out, and at least that's that was sort of the feeling I left that meeting with, was that both parties want to figure this out.
If this doesn't get resolved by the 23rd, does this mean that we have to reopen the hearings on all the licensed events that are licensed after July 1st?
It certainly will bring into question whether or not those events are properly licensed at that time. I think we'll have to take a look at that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, and the reason why is, of course, that we don't want to place the town in jeopardy in any way, shape, or form. That's our primary concern, is that we want to make sure that anything that happens at the stadium the town is protected, and that that everyone here does the best job they can on both sides of the aisle of this issue. But we have to make sure that the town is fully protected. That's our job to do in this case.
Yeah. And just so the board knows, I participated in the meeting earlier this week, and I'll participate next week. And both sides are working openly and trying to get to the same thing. So they're positive meetings, and
Right.
so I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Hopeful.
Yes.
Okay. Any more discussion on that item?
Yeah, well, this was the issue that was brought up, was it last year or the year before?
It was 2 years ago.
2 years ago, where we were, July 3rd, I had company at my place, and I was here at a meeting because of the insurance issue. So is this a continuation? We thought we had it straightened out. Is this a continuation of a problem with the insurance?
We discussed that very issue at our meeting, that we had no intention of going into July with this issue open. And that's the reason why you note that we set the date of June 23rd to make sure that everything was resolved by then, so that we didn't go beyond that date.
Because I think it was the consensus of the board that this would not happen again. We would not go through this again. This insurance
I
issue
stated
has
that
to
at the
be-
meeting, that
Yeah,
I'm
this
not giving
insurance
up my
issue has to
vacation
be-
time to come
Right.
back.
Yeah,
for
Jim was very
special
clear
meetings.
about that. He stated that position very clearly. Of course, we weren't there at that time, but, and I think our position was very clear, that we don't want to go into July with this issue open, and that we're very clear in that this is an important thing that we need to have resolved. I think we can get it resolved. I think there's a willingness on both sides to get it resolved. And and there was a willingness as early as this morning to call a meeting next week to try and move towards that closure. So I'm appreciative of that, and with due respect, I think that we'll go with that and go in that direction, see if we get it done. Obviously, it doesn't, then we have a much bigger issue to talk about.
Mhm.
Any further discussion on the insurance? Thank you, Bill.
Great, thank you.
The next item, 805, Roger Hill from our DPW Director, to talk about our, sure. You gonna do the PowerPoint?
PowerPoint.
Oh, okay, great. Good evening, thank you for having us here.
How's all the water issues, good?
Yeah. Well, just, that's, actually was a good suggestion that we had an incident over the weekend, which I would like to just make everyone aware of. I was going to save it for my report, but now that Chris is setting up, I'll take the opportunity to do that. I did provide the board with a copy of a press release, which I also gave to, what did I do with it here? Concerning the, here it is. Press release on an item that happened over the weekend, and when we learned about it, the water department acted quickly and responsibly to try and address it as soon as possible. But it was really important that we got the information out to the public as soon as possible to indicate that this was not a water department cause that created this. This was something of a private contractor impacted a pipe, a major water supply pipe into the system, broke the pipe, and then caused a significant loss of water that then turned into a brown water condition that impacted several residents and businesses in the community. So the department responded quickly. They addressed it. The brown water condition actually subsided by Sunday for most areas. It still may be remaining in some locations, but I think it's very minimal at this point. And then as a result of that, the town is now the department's working with the contractor who caused the issue, and certainly actions will be taken to address that going forward. But this was a case where this had been identified as a concern prior to construction. The engineer had committed to the town that they would be very careful in doing it. Unfortunately, the contractor apparently didn't follow that same guideline. So as a result, we ended up with a situation that had to respond to. What sort of made the situation even more egregious was the fact that the contractor never contacted the department prior to doing the construction in that particular area. If they had done that, we probably could have shut it off a lot quicker.
Shut it off before it happened.
Before it happened, which would have eliminated
It's valved on both ends.
Right.
So we got to close two valves.
Yep.
And fed both ways, and if they broke the pipe,
It wouldn't have mattered.
just break the pipe.
Right. So unfortunately, it caused an issue that could have been avoided on many different levels. But I think it's important for the community to know that this was not caused by our water system or our water department. This was done by the work of a construction practice. So, in fact, our department, I thought, did a nice job of responding as best they could under the circumstances.
So you're going to have a press release that goes in the reporter?
We've got the local paper. We've also given it to the reporter, Frank Mortimer, and we're going to post it on our website as well as put it on our Facebook page as well.
Okay. The contractor will be liable for any of the costs, I would assume?
They have to repair everything.
Right.
Great.
So
Okay, thank you.
The loss of water as well, another issue.
You're welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks, Jim.
Floor
I
is
think you're
yours.
the only one who's ever seen this. The board changed quite a bit since the first time we put it up. We've been operating a pavement management system now for, well, this will be the third year. And what a pavement management system does is it includes the practice of planning for pavement maintenance and rehabilitation with a goal that we minimize the costs and maximize the value of the network. So we tend to use a lot of different methods of repair depending on the severity of the damages. Next slide, Chris. And this slide kind of depicts what happens if you don't do routine maintenance. You end up with the pavement in poor condition and you spend a lot of money bringing it back. Whereas if you spend a little bit every year and keep the pavement in good condition, you don't end up having to spend big wads of money at some future date. And there's really 3 steps to the program: maintenance, preservation, and rehab. And they involve the use of different techniques. The maintenance techniques are very reasonably priced, and they are effective, but they are limited in life. The preservation are a little bit more costly, and they extend the life quite a bit. And finally, the rehabilitation is what we have to do if we haven't done our homework with the maintenance and the preservation. Next slide, Chris. So these are the 5 steps. When we started the program, we did a road inventory and a base GIS map. That was followed by a field inspection program of all the roads in Foxborough. And then from that, they did an existing conditions summary, and we developed a capital improvement plan. And now we're in the process of doing system maintenance. You can go to the next one after this. So you can see now that Foxborough has 91 miles, approximately 91 miles of accepted streets, some unaccepted, some streets that are not completed. The town totals 101 miles. The state adds another 30, and then we've got 5.7 of private for a total of 137 miles. When they do the inspections, what they do is they actually go out in the field and they ride every foot of pavement, and they have a scanner and they take photographs, and they segment the roadways between intersections. So each segment gets a value of a road service rating to say what kind of condition the pavement's in, what its expected useful life is going to be, and other factors about it. And then you combine the road service ratings for the segments to come up with an overall road service rating for that particular road. And we've done all the roads. And then these are the typical example of repair methods. And you can see how the costs escalate rapidly as you go down scale. Deferred maintenance is like a brand new road. Routine maintenance is about 40 cents a square yard for crack sealing or patching. Then you get into the surface treatments, the mill and overlays, the reclamation, and finally the full depth reconstruction, where you spend a lot of money. When we started the program in 2012, we had a road service rating for the whole town of 75, which wasn't too bad considering that for many years Chapter 90 had been spotty and we didn't have a lot of local aid for roads. But prior to 2012, the town meeting voted to dedicate a portion of the meals tax for roads, and in addition to that, we began to see an upbeat in Chapter 90 funding from the state. So now we compare that to today, and you can see now that our road service rating has really improved dramatically to 82.6. 80 is sort of like the baseline to say that somebody's doing something right. So I'm pretty happy to get there in 2 years, because I didn't expect to get there in 2 years when we started the program. But thanks to this board and the town meeting, we were able to use quite a bit of meals tax money at an appropriate time to get this thing off the ground well. And we're moving really in the right direction right now. So these are just typical representative conditions of roads that have different road service ratings. And obviously, if you look at Leonard Street, that has a very low road service rating, which means it's in trouble. And if you go up there today, you'll see that we've already ground the surface off and we're getting ready to resurface it in about 3 or 4 weeks. Rock Hill Street's in a little bit better condition. That has a rating of 63 or 62. And then you go to Main Street. They rate Main Street higher than I do, the consultant. We're going to do Main Street this year because it needs it. And finally, Pleasant Street, which is in pretty decent shape. And these are different methods we have used in our repairs over the last 2 years. We did a lot of crack sealing that keeps the water out of the base and it preserves the pavement for quite a while, and it's very reasonable to do. We cape sealed a lot of subdivision roads. Dudley Hill is a good example, or Witch Pond Estates, Faxon Road and that area down there, and that's been very good. The Cape Seal's been an outstanding program. We've done a lot of planing and overlaying, and you saw it on Cohasset, Summer Street last year, any number of roads that we did that. And we've done some overlays, some pavement overlays, and we've done a little bit of leveling. And John, you know, you've got some on your street that's getting ready for a rubber chip seal in probably the second week in August. We figured, Chris, yeah. Then we get to type I overlay as opposed to super pave. We really love the super pave. It does a great job. But our contractor right now only supplies us with super pave because that's all they make, and we get it for the same price as type I. But that doesn't mean he's going to get the contract next year, so we'll see how it goes. So our backlog has been reduced quite a bit. When we started, we thought there was a backlog of about 11.3 million, and right now we're at about 7.5 million. And a lot of that is not heavy-duty spending. It's, let's say, more in the middle spending. And that's because we attacked we're attacking the 4 worst roads in town this year, and that's Leonard, Sherman, West Leonard, and Carpenter. And Main Street's high on the list. Central Street's high on the list. We did an overlay on a portion of Mechanic Street over the weekend, and it's pretty nice up there right now. That's gonna last about five to 6 years, because we still have a lot of work to do on Mechanic Street underneath. And when I do Chestnut Street this summer, I'm gonna come right up through and rebuild the intersection at Mechanic Street, which needs it bad. Go to the next one. So this is how the system forecasts needs and how we prioritize the strategies. You can't put all your money into the lowest rated projects. You have to do some routine maintenance on projects that have a high road service rating to maintain them at that level. So we have a broad base of what we do every year. You haven't seen any crack sealing this year, but you're gonna see a bunch of it before the year's out. We're also gonna use a new product that we haven't used in Foxborough, but it's been used extensively in Mansfield, and that's called a rubber chip seal, and it works very well. It actually smooths out after a year to almost like asphalt, and Mansfield's used a ton of it, and it really does. It glues the road together, and it does a great job. So this is what happens under different funding scenarios. You can see the yellow line in the middle. If you fund at 1.1 million, you're going to get about no increase, no decrease in road service rating. If you fund at a little higher level, the 1.35 million, it might take you quite a while to get up 2 or 3 points. If you fund at 1.6, you'll get up much faster. Our experience has been a little different than that. Go ahead and get the next one, Chris. These are benefits from the top 10 roadways that we've done, and our experience has been that we actually get a little bit more bang for our buck than what the model says. And then system maintenance, we just update data and take care of things like events that happen, like winter last year, for example. That had a lot of maintenance. We've already attacked the 2 worst roads we had, which is Mechanic Street and Lakeview. And Lakeview was in tough shape, so we think we're going to pave Lakeview on Thursday. It's looking like Thursday right now. Click the next one. So here's what we're continuing to do. You know that our Chapter 90 was graciously adjusted by 50% higher this year by the governor on the very first day he was in office. And then they came out in the spring with another winter recovery program, and they gave us another $92,000. And we have $240 from the meals tax revenue. So we have a robust program this year. These are what our tentative plans are. We've already started on Leonard, Sherman, West Leonard, and Carpenter. Oak Street got paved Friday. We are going to do the shoulders with rubber chip seal. That was an agreement with the neighbors. The neighbors are happy. I've been getting very great emails from the neighbors up there. So happy with what we did. So
Those that didn't get flat tires.
That's right.
they wouldn't have gotten flat tires by just driving the road at the speed limit.
Point taken.
And you can see Central and Main. We're not sure about Central this year. We would like to do it. It's tentative depending on how our funding goes. We've overlaid Mechanic Street. We have yet to do Eastman, Palmer, Phillip, Wayne, and Sherwood. And then the rubber chip seal roads are definitely going to get done in August. And Cape Seal, I'm looking at the Bs, and if you know where the Bs are, that's also called Greenview Estates. And those are 36-foot wide pavements down there, and they can eat a lot of money. But the Cape Seal is reasonable. It's about half the price of asphalt overlay. So we're
Can you tell what's the difference between the two?
Well, if you've seen the Cape Seal, because if you've been in Dudley Hill or Faxon Road or Witch Pond Estates, those are Cape Sealed roads, and they look pretty good. The only downside to them is that they freeze quicker than regular asphalt in the winter, so we have to get the salt to them a little earlier. And we're also looking at some new techniques in the future. Not 100% sure about some of these yet, but I'm going to give you a little background on some of them. This program is working well. We do find that by revisiting the roads annually, and when I say revisiting, drive every foot of them, we actually have been able to stretch the budget, because what we thought we were going to need from the road service rating, we made decisions to go with a little bit cheaper product on certain roads because it worked. The GIS has helped tremendously. It's refined our ability to estimate the budget costs, because it really pinpoints the quantity that we're going to need on a road. And I'll let Chris tell you about, we just did Mechanic and Oak Street.
Yeah, the benefits of the GIS is we have an aerial photo, and we get measurements based on the aerial photo. We can do widths, we can do lengths. We're actually measuring and estimating our projects at 2%, close to 2% of what we're actually spending when the asphalt actually goes down. We had Oak Street budgeted for $180,000. What we spent was $176,000. And on Mechanic Street, we had budgeted $86,000. We spent $84,500. So we're actually budgeting just a touch over, which I like to do. We also include the line striping, the police details. It all goes in a spreadsheet, and allows us to calculate all those costs associated with each of those roads. And it varies from one spot to the next, and we can put in our calculations when we do our surge bid, which allows us better value for the quantities through a 20-town bid. We adjust those values from one year to the next each time it's bid, and it runs very smoothly, and it's definitely helped us out to budget these projects and know this time of year that where we're going to end up come September, October.
The new methods that are coming out in the near future, one is called warm asphalt, and it's really sweeping the country right now. It's cheaper to make than hot mix, and it's supposed to be as good. It is not now used in Massachusetts because they won't allow Chapter 90 to fund it yet, but the state will get there. I predict that within 4 or 5 years they'll be doing a lot of warm asphalt on many of the roads. Another new product that we can use, and we plan to use some of it, it's called Nova Chip. If you drive 106 through Easton, from the 5 corners out to West Bridgewater line, they've just redone a big portion of that with Nova Chip. It's a very thin overlay. It's been used up in New Hampshire and Vermont for years on the interstates, and it stood up real well. And we'll give it a try on a couple of roads this year just to see how well it works, and if it works well. It's competitive in price to Cape Seal, and may be a better product. I have yet to the jury's out on it as far as we're concerned.
We've used it before in my previous job.
Yeah, I know Dave used it in Dedham,
yeah.
So. And I invite the board to ask any questions you want. We'll try to answer them.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Yeah, I like how you're willing to not just stick with the same old stuff and try new things. A couple of questions. When you do a road, like say Leonard Street, for example, and it might not be a good example because it's probably not heavily traveled as others, but when do you go back and relook at that? Is it every year you?
Every year.
Okay.
Every year. This year was really tough because the damn snow hung around so long.
Yeah.
But I go out when the weather's good on a weekend, and I'll ride every road in town, and I carry a big clipboard with me and a big map, and I make sure I mark what I think the road service rating should be and what it looks like.
Okay. Couple of observations, because you did Spruce Street last year.
Yes.
Which I live on, and, thank you, well needed. But I noticed at the end of every driveway, you really didn't go into the driveway. Like in the old days, they always used to cut in 5 or 6 feet. And my driveway in particular, it's on a hill, so where the new overlay is
You got a little bump there?
It's higher than, the street's higher than the bottom of my driveway. floods in the wintertime severely, and if I was to plow, if I still own to plow, but I have to shovel now, if I was pushing down, I'd be pushing all that new pavement, I'd rip it right up, so.
Usually we do go in.
Okay.
That Spruce Street was tight, the last of the type I. We didn't use super pave on Spruce Street. I cut the joints at the intersections, but I didn't do the driveways because we were doing it more of an overlay.
Yeah, but I'd be very careful with a great program like this, doing so many roads, and then having a lip at everybody's driveway. If people are plowing, all that new asphalt's just gonna get
That only
pushed out.
happens on an overlay.
Okay.
Good example is what we just did on Oak Street. We ground out 25 feet of pavement down 1.5 inches, and then we filled that in and left all the driveways and aprons the way they were.
Okay.
But we are gonna rubber chip seal those. Now, rubber chip seal doesn't add more than about a 1/10 of an inch to the road surface. But
Can I just, one other
sure,
question?
yeah.
You had mentioned earlier redoing the intersection of Chestnut and Mechanic by the cemetery and everything?
Yep.
You're doing curbs, sidewalks, everything?
I'm gonna blow out the roadways and do a plateaued intersection. But the sidewalk coming up Chestnut Street from Cohasset is gonna be dug out and replaced. I have to wait till after school's out because that's a walking sidewalk to school. So, and we're gonna put new granite slope-faced edging like we put on North Street, Jim, and a new sidewalk on that side that'll be 5 feet wide, and I won't be breaking up my sidewalk plows on the stone walls and everything. That's too close.
You're gonna do the sidewalk on the opposite by the church?
Not until we do the final work on Mechanic Street, which will be in a couple of years after we dig it up again for water work.
I'm sure you'll do this when you get to it, but can you just be really, really careful of those oak trees that line there?
Oh, yeah.
That was a community service project we planted with a bunch of Cub Scouts, and
we try to
planted
stay
them
away
when they were
from
12 feet high, and they're now 40 or 50 feet high and beautiful, so a lot of work went into that, so.
We try to stay away from the trees.
Yeah.
Roger, one question. With the combination of Chapter 90 money and the meals tax money from the town, which maintenance curve are you going to find yourself? Is it going to be treading water, or are you going to be gaining ground?
If they keep funding us at the level they're funding us now.
Yeah, that one right there.
The total Chapter 90 right now is about 940,000, but they didn't fund the 300. They funded the 300 that was sequestered by the prior governor, and they haven't yet got into a program where they bond over a 5-year period and guarantee us the money for 5 years, but they're talking about it. There's a lot of pressure on to do that.
Okay, so right now it's a year-to-year.
It's a year-to-year thing. Right. And as Jim, I think Jim will remember this, that when we were down in the depths of the Depression, the Chapter 90 money dropped off to tiny amount. So there's no guarantee unless that legislature decides they're going to bond a large amount of capital and fund the towns. If they funded $300 million, we will be able to stay way above the power curve, and we'll get to a point where we're going to start having trouble using all the money, which is nice because then we can go on to sidewalks and curbs and drainage and the things that also require money that we don't have. So.
But the news is actually pretty good.
I think I'm optimistic about Chapter 90, and I know that we're trying to pay off the OPEB, and I'm not pressing for OPEB meals money. If we get more, but we're growing meals money every year.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
I see that as a relatively steady amount. It may not remain that way, but we'll see how it goes. But I think with the money that'll come into the program, we'll be able to really get far ahead. The biggest problem we have is the window of opportunity to do these projects with the numbers of people that we have available. So what I would do in that situation is we could start using some of our Chapter 90 money to do things that we are doing in-house, like adjusting the structures in the roadways and things like that. I don't like to do that because we've been saving a lot of money by doing that in-house. But it is a lot of work, and it takes quite a bit of time to get them all done.
Speaking of resetting structures, do Do you think we're being short-sighted when we mill and overlay and we're not addressing the sinking catch basins and sinking granite splash blocks at those sewer inlets? Because I know on Oak Street, there's several that are either sinking or the granite backsplashes have sunk where you only have an 1.5-inch throat or a 2-inch throat. And then there's a lot of pine trees that are building up over there, and you get widespread flooding. You get water underneath the pavement. You get the freeze-thaw cycles, and all that hard work that you just did is going to blow it apart.
The good news about
week.
Oak Street is that we are not done. We got those 6-foot shoulders, which are where the basins and the headers are, and we're going to go in and do the basins and the headers once we get, probably the end of June, before we do the chip seal.
Okay, so when you
And I've been ahead of the power curve on some headers around town. Like the year before last, we did all of the catch basins and headers in the area up around Young Road and Edwards and Shoreline, and they were sinking and going bad. And we've gone back and we fixed all those, and we crack sealed the heck out of that, that whole development up there.
got to keep the water from getting out, getting underneath the asphalt.
Yep.
And
I mean, water's the enemy of all
absolutely
pavement.
prevent those freeze-thaw cycles, because that's the biggest detriment to paving.
Yeah, I was on the board when you made the presentation.
were?
Yes, it was one of my first meetings.
Okay.
You were very excited about it, and you said it wouldn't be tomorrow. It'll take a while because you had to compile all the information and everything, but the roads will start to improve, and they have. I'm very impressed. I got on Mechanic Street late Sunday afternoon. I went, whoa. It was a nice ride. I didn't realize you would do it, but I'm very impressed with the work you've done on the roads. So, and everything you said has come true. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else from the board?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, so, I mean, my own, not to be repetitive, the merger of the DPW into one consolidated, so left hand and right hand are kind of together now, is evident here, so I appreciate that. I did send you an email last week on a issue that a resident on Oak Street had, similar to what he was saying. If you could just respond to that,
Yeah,
that
I
would be
talked
good.
to her, yeah, and I sent her an email too.
Yeah, that's fine. In the interest of time, I just wanted to make sure that was.
I know,
so.
she's got a legitimate complaint.
Yeah.
And it was a 2-part complaint. One part is her responsibility, but one part is ours.
Gotcha. Okay. Very good.
Chairman, just let me say thank you to Roger and for Chris for being here tonight. Great program. My experience in Dedham didn't go nearly as fast as yours in terms of results, so congratulations to you on getting it there. Obviously, a little bit more complicated program than what you have here, but keep it up, because it's the one thing. The roads are the one thing that everybody gets to use.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one service we provide. So if you do a good job with your roads, you leave a good impression on the rest of the community. It really is important. So good
Thanks.
job.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. If it's okay with the board, I'm going to bump 2 items on the order.
Yep.
Officer Ken Fitzgerald's been waiting patiently in the back, if that's okay. And the trash regulations and the constable policy. We'll come after that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to suggest that.
Okay.
Me too.
Yeah, okay.
Our newest officer is Fitzgerald. He was a former officer in the town of Natick. We're lucky to have him want to join us here in Foxborough. And right now, he's with Officer Pat Hoffman, doing some field training just to bring him up to speed on the way that Foxborough handles different things and learning the streets and the schools. And we'd certainly like to have the board welcome him as a key part of Foxborough's future in policing. Ken, Board of Selectmen, of course, Mr. Keegan, the town manager, Ms. Bernard.
Thanks. I'll just start off on behalf of the Board of Selectmen. Thank you and welcome to Foxborough.
Thank you.
We haven't formally met, but I've heard a lot of good things about you, and I've seen you around town a little bit. So I think we'll just open up to the board. If you have something to say, that would be great.
No
questions?
Glad you selected Foxborough. I know Natick is a busy place, so welcome and best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, same. Just welcome.
Thank you very much.
Welcome and good luck.
Thank you.
Welcome, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy working in Foxborough.
I heard you need a deputy chief, right? I thought that.
And he has a sense of humor.
Ambitious.
That's good.
That's right. Just the one thing, if I could add, Mr. Chairman, the unique aspect of drawing an officer from another community is the fact he's already trained, which is really big for us. But particularly in this case, Officer Fitzgerald actually has accident reconstruction experience, which is something we didn't really have as an expertise in our organization. So he adds that additional dimension to our organization now, which we didn't have, and we're appreciative have been choosing our community for that purpose. But we look forward to having him here, and first and foremost, just I say this to all the new officers, just be safe when you're out there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Very much.
Jim,
Thank you.
If I
I'm
may,
sorry.
I just want
Sure.
to say that it was a pleasure meeting you from the get-go, and I really enjoyed working with the chief on this lateral transfer process. It was a great process and a great coup to get our new officer.
Great, thank you. And just so you know, if you saw it in the packet, there is a resume from Officer Fitzgerald, and it's pretty lengthy and in depth, so appreciate the experience that you bring to Foxborough.
Thanks for your service.
Thanks for coming tonight.
No
Thank you.
problem. I'm working anyway.
Back out there.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
See you later, bye, Pat.
Thanks. Good night.
Okay, so actually, while the chief is here, if we could bump back the trash regulations and go to the constable policy. Chief, you want to join us for the your constable policy, which is in our packet?
I appreciate that.
So I think this was on our docket earlier in a past meeting. And this is more of a formal presentation with the policy in front of us now?
Correct.
Okay.
Just to go back a little bit, we were looking for different things to try and change within our current bylaws. Currently, the only reference to constables in the town bylaws indicates that there shall be 2 constables and the method that they be appointed by the selectmen. It was very vague and not very clear as to what a constable has responsibility for. And later on in the process, I teamed up with the assistant town manager when she came on board, and we worked together trying to find a way that we could either construct a potential bylaw to address those issues, to make it more practical and also easier for the board to follow in terms of the appointment of constables. And then due to some other factors, as we looked further at different communities, the process that they were using for appointing constables and the methods that they were using to manage it, we decided it would be appropriate, rather than going through an amendment to the town warrant, to have a selectmen's policy, so that the board itself would have some guidelines in the future when we appoint constables.
Excuse me, Chief O'Leary, could you just explain the function of a constable? Who hires them? What is the function?
Well, the primary function now is primarily the service of civil process from the courts. If there's a pending litigation, a constable will come to your home or your place of business and serve you notice as to when you would appear in court as a defendant, or that you would go to a constable if you were an attorney in town or somebody that is a plaintiff to serve papers on someone else. So it's primarily civil in nature. The role of police officer actually came from the original constables that most communities had. In fact, Foxborough didn't have their first paid police officer till 1867, and that was due to the immigrants down on Wall Street where they lived and the drinking. It's alleged it had something to do with the Irish immigrants. I don't know as to the truthfulness on that.
So a constable can be hired by an attorney in town?
Correct. He would be hired by an attorney and paid for by the attorney. And I'll come back to that issue in 1 second. And then he would go out and serve those particular papers. Although they have very limited areas that they could actually make a criminal arrest, I think within the policy itself, the preferred method, if there was a violation, is to, ask for the police department to support them if they thought they were going to have a difficult service of civil process.
Did you also say that like a judge from a court would hire a constable to do some work? Is it, I
Not
don't know what-
necessarily.
Oh, okay, I thought that you had said that. Oh, okay.
Again, it's focusing on the civil litigation aspects and the proper service of papers. You brought up who pays. One of the things I found out, because we had a very open-ended process, is none of the current constables are paying the required fee as mandated by law. So one of the things that this clearly points out is their obligations to the community, that a percentage of the revenue that they earn from the service of papers is to be turned into the town treasurer, and that they are to report different situations to the town clerk. Because in our investigation, in talking with both our treasurer and town clerk, when I asked them about it, they were amazed because neither one has either seen any money or any records of the services that are made in the community. So I think that this policy gives the board a methodology for new appointments or renewal of current appointments, as well as making sure that they're following the law as they're supposed to, and also some regulations, because right now, there's no way for the board to take action if, let's say, a constable was overbearing or threatening or rude to a person they might be, and I'm not saying that this happens, but there would be no method of reining the person in other than perhaps not reappointing them as their term ends. We're having several people whose term is ending in this particular fiscal year, so that's why it would be helpful if at some point the board does decide on this policy, so that with those people whose appointments have expired, the board could go on to now have some guidelines for reappointments.
Chief, who trains a constable? Is that something the police department does?
Actually, no. They have to provide very basic training on how to serve
do it on their own?
papers. There's actually a constable association here in Massachusetts that does have training seminars from time to time, but it seems to be very rare, other than through almost like an apprenticeship to somebody that's currently doing it, that they would get specific information, or perhaps even working with an attorney that would spell out what, his requirements are.
Do they have to be residents of the town?
The new bylaw does not require that. It's preferred to have residents of the town, but it's not a requirement. If we don't have enough constables, then we appoint people from outside the community.
So town residents would take preference?
Town residents could apply as anyone else could.
If you say you have, what do we have, 10 constables?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Say we have five constables actually are town residents, and then we appoint another 5 from varying communities. Would the residents of Foxborough get preference in regard to being hired to do the
I have no idea, because that's a private transaction between the individual and the attorney or the person requesting the service of the document.
Okay.
In the policy, they have, residency or proximity to Foxborough, but demonstrated experience in serving, demonstrating experience in interacting with state law enforcement, knowledge and history of compliance. So there's a bunch of different criteria, residence being one. So if someone wants an appointment, they come to you and you make that recommendation to the town manager, whether or not they can come forward. That's what I'm
Well,
reading in the
actually,
policy.
They're coming before the board to get that particular appointment, but they would fill out an application now that's in much more detail than prior applications. And the way the policy's set up, it would be, that individual would be vetted by my office, and I would make a recommendation, to the board through the town manager as to whether a person meets the background, that we would find him to be suitable.
Is there enough work in town for 10 constables? Do we have a lot of criminal activity and,
No,
serving papers? for
But we
10?
live in a very litigious society, and I think there are numerous suits that we don't hear about that constables are used to serve papers on individuals.
Do we currently have 10 active constables?
We have at least 8 or 9 on our current list.
And it says here in this that you are also a constable?
Correct.
So do you ever serve any of these papers to anybody, or is it
No,
all?
I don't. What I'm the constable for, and as my predecessors were, for posting town warrants and doing any town work that would call upon the constable, going back to perhaps Chief Dean back in the 1930s.
So you included in the 10, or are you
Yes,
number 11?
No, I would be included in the 10.
Chief, this text, I'm sure that this is sort of partially lifted from policies that are used in other towns.
Right, I left off the end notes to explain which
But I mean,
communities
this has
shared.
been proven in other towns, and obviously you talk to the other towns and they said they're satisfied with this policy. And actually, I agree with you that this is better off being in a policy binder than a bylaw.
Right. That's correct. I think we had 4 or 5 different communities that had different forms, methods, rules, and myself and the assistant town manager went through them and sort of picked the ones that we thought were going to be most appropriate for our community.
Is it safe to assume that none of our constables are bonded right now?
I know that some are, but I think this requirement on, demonstrating that they are bonded would be important to the community.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, are all of the current constables aware that this policy is getting looked at and ready to go?
As far as I know, I had asked the administrative staff to send out a letter that this was going to be discussed.
Are the current constables, would they be grandfathered? So that, like, say, a constable isn't bonded, would they be grandfathered until the next time they're appointed, that they have to be bonded?
I wouldn't recommend that.
No, me either.
We also have the situation where none of them are in compliance with the law with regard to reporting
Right.
right now, so.
Yeah, I think this is a good step to clean up the process and get everyone on the same foundation.
I mean, it seems like people have been appointed in the past on sort of a rolling basis, that someone would come in and apply to be a constable, and if they met the criteria, and it wasn't necessarily managed as such.
Should we add into this policy a window of opportunity, for the lack of a better word, if we do vote to incorporate this policy? A window where the current constables can get their act in alignment with the new policy?
It's not a bad idea.
Well, I was contacted by one constable, and I think the term went to May. So
Right.
he was told, hold off, there's a new policy coming.
Right.
So his question is, what is the process between May and when this gets done? How do I continue on as being a constable? So I think that we're talking the same thing.
Yeah,
It is-
I think, we have to give these guys, or women, a parameter of, a time frame when they need to get into compliance with the new policy, whether it's,
6
60
months.
days, 90 days, 120 days.
How difficult would it be to be in compliance with this? You just have to get bonded.
Well, no, because none of them have been reporting their
Well,
income.
Well, I
or-
mean,
start
they
with
could start reporting tomorrow, and they can get
Right.
bonded
I
pretty
think that,
quickly.
where none of them are allegedly aware, although if you read the general laws, it's pretty clear that they have a financial obligation to the community. I think if we make it clear when we're coming up on the start of a new fiscal period on July 1st, that on July 1st, there's an expectation, and again, I'm speaking out of turn, it's your decision to enact the policy, but it seems to me that July 1 would be a good starting point if indeed you accept the policy as drafted.
Yep.
And then every quarter, they would have an obligation to provide information to the treasurer as well as payments.
Just a question to the board. Would you recommend that we have, the new application was created as well, along the same lines. We looked at applications from other communities.
Mhm.
Would you recommend that as a baseline, because we're doing a query with these as well, that everybody fill out the application? That's the people who are up for,
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
Absolutely.
and then we'll have that on file going forward.
And that's just gonna be for the people that are up for renewal. What about the existing
Or
people?
those who want to continue.
Yeah, I would say those who wanna continue.
Okay.
I would start fresh with all of them, but
With new
keep
applications.
keep their terms the way they are, just so
Mhm.
we're not doing this every 3 years.
Just have them come into compliance with the new regulations.
Yeah.
The new requirements.
And we're requiring that they be query checked?
Yes.
And that's something
That's in
that
the
wasn't a
regulation.
requirement before.
I don't think
No.
either one of us were clear on whether that happened or
Right.
not before.
Some definitely did, because it was brought to my attention by whoever would have been the secretary at the time in the selectman's office.
So now they'll all.
Yep,
Right.
we'll do that.
And just clarification on the number, the policy statement says not less than 10 people, constables in the town, and then the number of constables says shall not be more than 10.
Right.
So are we looking to have exactly 10? We have to have exactly 10 or it doesn't meet our policy, correct? If you look at the statement,
What
Not
page you
less
on,
than
Joe?
10. No, the statement on the front.
yeah, it says not less than 10 people constables for 3-year terms, and then on D, it says shall be no more than 10 people. So by default, we've got to have exactly 10 or we can't
Yeah.
function.
Well, we can edit the policy with your recommendation.
Well, I'm not sure, where does 10 come from? If you're saying we have 7 or 8 now?
Well, we had a certain number of people that were currently in the positions,
Mhm.
and we probably looked at that number
Okay.
as a baseline.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure why we would say we can't have less than, because we're not creating constables if people,
Right.
so
I'd say
I could
no
say no
more
more
than.
than 10.
I'd say more than on the policy statement to go with the rest.
Yeah, so the free market will dictate between 1 and 10,
Right.
but over 10, we'd say that's too much.
And then we can come back to, once this is enacted, and let you know, once we're getting reports, like what the activity is.
Mhm.
You know, if we're seeing that the use of constables is busier than we thought.
In that one amendment, the MGL, was on the fees. Is it the 25%? Someone had emailed me. 25% of the fee goes to the town?
Correct.
Is that what's referenced in the MGL?
Yes, it
Mhm.
is.
Okay.
And if you're serving somebody, is it a flat fee, like $25 or $50 or
I have no idea, sir.
negotiated?
I would imagine, they have a fee structure set up, much like the small business for the provision of the service, how far you have to travel, how difficult it is to locate the person.
So just getting back to, the person that asked me, what do they do now that they're already a constable? Is it just wait until his poly comes out, or can I have them contact you for some direction?
They could certainly contact myself,
Mhm.
and if it's the board's decision, certainly we could make sure that prior to July 1st, that anyone that has a current appointment and is serving comes in to make sure they'll get a copy of the policy.
Yep.
And that we'll collect data on them to do their backgrounds and start the process starting July 1. And as mentioned, we're not going to end a person's appointment, but the application of the policy for July 1 should be followed.
Okay. All right, so I guess it sounds like we're going to put this on our next agenda. Any of these changes, the application, then we'll vote on this in 2 weeks. Okay. So if anyone has further comments, send them directly to...
I can't understand, why can't we do it tonight? Is there like a structural issue with this?
I think we should probably give the benefit of the doubt to the existing constables if they want to come in and question anything. It wasn't on the agenda to actually vote for it, was it?
Is there an application that's going to be attached to this as well?
We have an application that we can attach.
So if we could
Would you
have
want to view
that.
that next time?
Yeah, I
Yep.
think so.
Okay.
I mean,
You're running out of June, that's my only trouble. If you wanted to get in touch with these folks with the new policy, if you do it at the tail end of June, it's not going to give them enough time to react. And I don't think it's all that difficult to comply.
I mean, I don't have a problem voting on it. The only comment I had is the number of constables, everything else.
No, I think the one change is just say, not more than 10 is reasonable.
Okay.
can we legally then vote to do this without giving any of the constables fair warning that we were going to vote on it?
It's an adoption of a policy. It's our policy.
I think you can.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. So can I have a motion in the affirmative regarding the policy and appointment of constables?
Sure, I'll make the motion to adopt the policy on the appointment of constables as drafted with one change on page 1, first paragraph, to say not more than 10 people, constables for a 3-year term. Otherwise as written.
There are some edits that the chief did note, I think on page 4.
Oh, yeah, give me those.
Subsection G
Mass
should be
General
40, should be 41 instead of 51.
Chapter 4, yeah.
And then again on
Page 7, I believe.
page 7, under subsection 3.
Chapter 41.
Again, 41 versus subsection 95A.
Yep. And that's part of the record, because that's what was handed out when we got here
Right.
today.
Yeah, so I'll incorporate those changes into the motion as well.
Okay.
Seconded.
Motion made with conditions, seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you all for
Thank you.
putting this together.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, chief.
Thank you, John, for making it a little easier next week. Next week.
I just didn't see it as that
Yeah.
difficult.
I just wasn't sure if we needed to have it that we were actually voting on it.
No, it's our
Okay, so
policy.
going back to the waste hauling regulations, this has been in front of us at the last meeting, discussed over the last 6 months. The deadline is coming up again, July 1st. We have an existing hauler transitioning over to new regulations. It's a draft dated May 21st.
Just since the last meeting, I've not had any real comments about it, though I've had some comments about the contractors' issues in terms of, I've had some questions as to whether or not they could change their process to provide for smaller customers as opposed to, larger customers. And he actually is going to do that as part of his business model anyways. He's going to use both the Russell approach as well as the Dooley approach.
Kind of like a ticketed system?
Yes, well, it will be a bag system and with tags. So he's in the process of securing all that material right now for that purpose. So, because we recognize that there are a number of small households that don't generate a lot of trash, and as a result, he doesn't want to lose that business, those business customers.
And the other, I mean, that was a concern that was sent, but also the reimbursement for some people
Yes.
had paid a year in advance.
Right.
And then also, obviously, have the stickers as well. How's that
Right,
being
and
handled?
that was, I spoke to the current contractor, Russell, who indicated to me that he is going to come back with some dates. It'll probably be June or July, where he'll actually come into Town Hall and offer the opportunity for people to come in, and they will actually reimburse those individuals for the bags that they bought.
Okay.
All right, so we're just trying to work out those details now, and as to when that's actually going to happen. But I did speak to him directly, and that's what he did convey to me.
Okay.
So we're trying to figure out maybe 3 Tuesday nights or something like that during the month of June and July.
Okay.
Bill, I've read this now probably 4 times, and it's impossible to predict every possibility.
Mhm.
But I think it's a solid enough platform to put into place. I just had one question. What's a vegetable pairing?
A vegetable pairing?
Page 2. 3rd paragraph. I don't know what that is.
It's all the waste from like peeling potatoes and all that?
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's compostable
Okay.
type
Put it in
of
your
garbage, right?
It's a new word for
It's
me.
good for the plants.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay, other than that, you know, like I said, it's very complete, and it's a great start.
And this is the same exact draft that we got
Yes.
back a
Yeah,
few weeks
2
ago.
weeks ago, right.
In May, okay.
I haven't needed to make any changes to it.
Okay, so, again, this is a contract, you want to formal
It's not a
vote on
contract, this is a
I mean,
this is
regulation.
Regulation, yeah.
So in order for the selectmen to adopt this regulation, a formal vote this evening to get everything in place for July 1st.
Right.
Okay, so a motion regarding the are we going to redate this?
Yes, we'll make it
Regulation?
effective, it'll be effective July 1st.
Okay. So do I hear a motion in the affirmative for the waste hauling regulations that's presented in front of us?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that the board accepts the waste hauling regulations going into effect July 1, 2015.
Second. Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay.
Nice job.
Thank you very much.
I just have a question. When will the final paperwork be done in regard to Dooley taking over Russell? When will everything work?
That's already been done, that's in place. So what has to be done was, they have to, it's sort of like a closing between the two companies, and the only piece that I more or less approved was the fact that they're gonna pick up our trash at the various town locations. So that's the only it's a very limited piece for us.
So this means that, I mean, I don't know about this year, I was going with Russell and I paid like $85, every 6 months or whatever it was.
Mhm.
So that means as of July 1st, I'm no longer with Russell, and the contract between me and Russell is done as of July 1st.
AJ Dooley will actually honor he'll come out with a new program as of July 1st for everyone, effectively.
Right, so I got a call from one of the residents, and they, it sounds like they had prepaid, but that couldn't be possible because everybody's contract ends June 31st, right?
June 30th, right.
June 30th, okay, all right, so,
I believe so.
yeah, okay, that was my understanding.
Yeah, I think I spoke to that same resident because I called them back and they said they had just got off the phone with you earlier.
Oh, okay, all right,
So
well, I
think
wanted to
there's a
make
little
sure
confusion.
I
I think they
didn't
must have
give-
called everybody.
I want to make sure I didn't give them the incorrect information, because
Yeah, well, because the
I gave
contract
them-
goes, it's a fiscal year contract. It
Right.
runs through June 30th, so.
Right.
And actually, this contract was, the third year of that contract with Russell was up this year. So it was up to the town to determine whether or not we wanted to continue beyond
Extension.
June 30th.
Yeah.
And I initially, said yes in hopes that they would work that out. And then finally, what they did was I actually reversed that action once the agreement had been reached between the two parties.
Yeah. So this should be like I told the lady, this will be a smooth transition. You won't even know the difference.
It should be very, very smooth for the residents.
Yeah.
And it's in, obviously, the business owner's best interest to try and figure those things out.
Right.
So.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so before we go into action items, the last item on the agenda is a town manager update.
Yeah, it's good news for you that 3 of the items that I had on here are already taken, that you've already done, so. But I do want to say.
Job for you?
Yeah, you know my job for me, make it easy for me. But I do want to say congratulations to all the graduates. It's a great accomplishment for everyone. I know that a couple board members here have graduates this year, and congratulations to them. I have one of my own, actually.
Congratulations.
So
Congratulations.
it was good it's been a great year for him as well. The one big issue that I wanted to convey to everyone was the fact that yesterday we had a visit from a company called Beacon Wellness, who is a company who represents a medical marijuana dispensing company. And they have an interest in a site here in Foxborough. The initial meeting was between myself and the chief and the building commissioner to try and just to identify what their interests were. They have an interest in a site at 24 Washington Street. That is within the properly zoned area that this town determined as an area that could be zoned for that purpose. The requirement would be that they would have to file for a special permit before the planning board. But the process, the regulations at the state level have actually changed within the past few months under the Baker administration, where now the two communities, the companies have to come to the town and ask ask for a favorable recommendation from the town before they actually go forward into their permitting process with the state.
So they can't do it by right.
They can do it by right, but they can't do it by right. They have to go to the town first and then make their pitch to the town. And there's two decisions that can come out of the town. One is the fact that the decision is it's a favorable recommendation, or it's a position of non-opposition. And the position of non-opposition really identifies the fact that your area is properly zoned, but the town is not necessarily in favor of that use, particular use. So I think we're at the juncture right now where this is brand new. I shared with the company that the community is very careful in how it reacts to new uses such as this, and that this will have to be fully vetted before we reach a conclusion as to how the town wants to react to this. So, but the next order of business would be to have them come in and make a presentation to this board, and then hear from them as to what they do, how their project works, how their company works. They are not licensed as of yet in this state. They are a brand new company, but there are 17 locations that have been licensed throughout the Commonwealth. They have tried to be licensed earlier. They went through the earlier processes, but there was a problem with one of their board members who needed to be who had a problem, I guess, with a background check that kicked out their application. So they've since remedied that. Now they're back for reconsideration. But this is a whole new round of applicants. There was a first round of 17. Now there's a whole new round of applications, and the process is a new process under the new guidelines, DPH guidelines. So it's the first step. It's the first step. It's and understand why they look interested in that location. It's a Route 1 location. It's a pretty visible location. And so I just want to make you aware of that. Yesterday, again, was just strictly a meet and greet. Tell us a little bit about your company, and here's the process, and here's why we're interested.
What's the timeline that they're...
Well, the guidelines, according to new guidelines, said they have to have a recommendation in on this round by the end of this month. I said that just doesn't seem likely to me that would happen, but certainly, I'll be guided by what the town wants to do in this case. But I think the town probably moves a little slower than that in terms of evaluating these things.
Who makes the recommendation? What entity makes the recommendation from the town? Is it town meeting or?
No, it's my understanding after reading the regulations that it's the chief executive authority, which in this case would be the board.
Doesn't it have to go through zoning first and then come to us?
Well, it's properly zoned.
Okay.
Yeah, we did that a few years ago.
Yeah, it is properly zoned, so but it does have to go. All this does is initiate the process so that they can then file for a permit through the state. Okay, so once they've come to us, they fulfill their obligation that the town could be received in the town. They file for their application with the state. If they get a permit that says yes, we have a permit, then they can come back to the town, start their formal application to the planning board, etc.
Very similar to a 40B application, where they come to the executive board to get to the state, and then they come back to all the different. So they'll have to go to the planning board and
any other boards that are applicable in this case. The site they're interested in has been identified to have some hazardous materials on it. So that's another consideration here that they're fully aware of. And so,
where is 24 Washington Street?
It's at the corner. It's across from McDonald's.
Yeah, it's the old gas station right on North Street and Route 1.
Oh, right.
Almost abuts a residential area.
That has a lot of
abuts
issues.
the Foxborough terminals.
Yeah.
This house is right across the street to Emily.
Right. So I'm just making you aware of that, and certainly I have not heard from them beyond yesterday, of course, but I do expect to hear from them as to when you would like to meet with them and get them on your agenda. But I'll be guided by what they want.
Are there any guidelines in regard to citing, these kind of establishments can they be near residential? Can they be near daycare? Can they be near churches? Can they be near, are there restrictions?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think there is a limitation in terms of being close to a school.
Yeah, I think when there was a warrant article, because we had to actually, it's similar to adult entertainment districts. Nobody wants them. I shouldn't say nobody wants it. Look back, Foxborough, if you look at the votes that we had when this went through the state, for the statewide vote, Foxborough, in the majority, said that they didn't have a problem with dispensaries. So, but if it's not zoned anywhere, because it's a new use, then you select an area where it could go. And so through that town warrant process, we picked an area that was away from schools, on a highway, not downtown, and it ended up on Route 1. So I think that process already, the horse left the barn at the town meeting. It's in our zoning now. So
I think we're required to set out a parcel just to meet the state guidelines, and every municipality had to set out a parcel. So I don't think the town said that they were in favor or not in favor. They just said, yeah, we understand that we have to set out a spot.
No. Even before that, when the town, the vote went to the state, this was a state vote?
To establish this initially.
Independent of the town. Anyone, if you look at the tally of
eligible,
Foxborough residents, they were in the majority to allow it legalized in Massachusetts, regardless, not knowing it was going to come to Foxborough, but.
But I think to John's point, what he's suggesting is that there is a zone, it's similar to what the adult entertainment district, if you don't put it there, then it could go anywhere.
Yeah. So I don't think we're mandated to put it, but if it's silent, then we got to deal with it.
Then you
after
open
the
that
fact.
door to a much broader
We can control
discussion.
it a little bit better if
Exactly.
it's allowed.
Exactly. So more to come on that front, but I just wanted to keep you up to date on that situation. All right, so that's, my other things were, of course, the water main incident, and of course, speaking about Sharon, but I appreciate the fact that everybody did that tonight. And then in the Founder's Day, just to remind everybody about Saturday. And my understanding is that we have to be at the step-off location at 9 o'clock, which is, what's the location?
It's right across from the mobile.
Yes, right across from the mobile station.
Central Street.
And then, and I'm told there's going to be a pretty good surprise in the parade this year, so I encourage everybody to attend.
Nice.
Yeah.
And the theme is music?
Music in the air.
Music in the air. Beautiful. You guys are going to be around? 5 of us?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And then I think if someone could grab there's flags behind the door in the town selectmen's meeting, if you open up the door behind it. I think they haven't moved from last year, so we'll make sure we grab those.
Yep.
Not flags, the banner.
That booth down in the field, right, Dunk the new chairman.
Yeah.
Fundraiser.
But the year we did that, the water was black. Brown. All right, so that concludes the agenda items. Now the action items is 12 of them.
Okay. When we get to number 9, I told Jim and Bill I'm going to recuse myself because I'm on that committee. So somebody else can handle that one.
Okay.
Number 1, animal control. I move that we accept the donation of $120 from Lynn Matthews for adoption fees.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0.
Number 2, combined donation to the Council on Aging and Human Services. I move that the board accepts the donation for $25 and $50 from Constance and Frank Brown and Beverly Whipple to be used for seniors at the Council on Aging and Human Services.
I'll second that, and thank you very much for the donation.
All right, motion made and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, this next topic, the approval of the 16 commercial parking permits. Bill, we may need a little guidance on this. There's some that are in process with the zoning board that we have to hold our vote for.
Yeah, I was surprised this was an action item and not an agenda item.
Oh, is it?
I'm not sure how you dealt with it in the past. Did we do it as an agenda item
Well,
last year?
because I know Bill Caspara had some concerns about these things. That's why I thought, I was surprised when I saw it as an
Yeah,
action item.
I have some questions on this too, relative to the renewal notice where it says increased parking spaces will no longer be granted, yet on all the applications, there's several that have expanded parking, looking for
expanded parking.
With the ZBA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is this Thursday
Right,
night.
this is the recommendation from the building commissioner is that we don't expand them, but the people can still, they can still make the
We
request.
have the letter basically in the bylaws saying that you can't expand.
And I thought, I talked to Bill Caspara earlier about this, not when I saw it as an action item, but earlier. And my concern was, we had people in, who were not in compliance with their license. And Bill's concern was, nothing's happened. There was no fine, nothing. And we're kind of rewarding them by increasing their parking. And I have no problem increasing the parking, finally doing it legally. But I do have, and I share Bill's concern, like, they're getting away with being non-compliant, and nothing's happened.
Right, I understand too that.
We didn't even send a letter to them. We were supposed to, I went back to the minutes, and we were supposed to send a letter to these people, and as far as I know, no, the letter wasn't even sent out.
This a year ago, or is this?
No, this was in a
Yeah,
few-
back in December, during there was a number of lots that the state went through, state police, and found that they were too much. So when it came in front of us, if I recall, the discussion was there wasn't going to be a fine because there might not have been a mechanism in the regulations.
And then, but then Bill Caspara went back, and there used to be a mechanism.
Yes.
Yeah, it used to be.
We don't know how it was removed.
Why
is the
was
question.
it removed?
So we
And
were
who
going to.
removed it?
Yeah, so I thought we were going to.
So there was a gray area. So we were going to
That's why-
send a letter to the lot holders, license holders, saying there was an issue. Not necessarily send a letter saying a fine, but more also to remind us that when this came up again, it was going to be in our file, that there was an issue and not to just go past it. So, in talking to Deb, the letter was not out, and I understood that.
What did the letter, was the letter supposed to come from us, or was it supposed to come from the
Said
police chief?
From the selectmen.
From the
Yeah.
selectmen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So back in December, I think we probably missed it back in December.
Okay.
But I
So,
think part of the discussion was, okay, we used to have a fine mechanism that was approved by town council. Then all of a sudden, it's not in the regulations anymore.
Right.
So what happened from A to B? That's why I thought,
In fact, this happened several years ago, because he said it was taken out several years ago, and because he couldn't seem to locate it, was going back to 2004, apparently. So, I think we have to go back and fix that, obviously, but,
and we had a meeting.
right.
And it was Mike Saig and Chief O'Leary and Steve Bagley and a
Right.
number of other people. And what we wanted to do was define violation. And then all of a sudden, we had this notice from town council from a few years ago that actually defined
Define what the
violation.
violation was, right.
But it all of a sudden disappeared from the regulations. That's why
Right.
I thought this was gonna be this should be an agenda item, or we should
Okay.
get down, obviously rewrite these regulations.
Okay. So what's the board's pleasure? We can put it as an agenda item in your next meeting, if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, I
You
think
still have
it's
time.
meaty enough that I think we need to
Yeah,
have a
and there'll be
discussion.
a lot of clarifications after this Thursday ZBA as well.
Right, we'll have more
Makes
time.
sense.
So is a Thursday ZBA looking for, we're both independent, but are they looking for a recommendation from
Well,
the selectmen on the expansion of the number of spaces?
Well, the plan board has to approve
Mm-hmm.
the site plan for the expansion, and that's what, there are three of them. I believe there are three, going before the planning board to get their approval of their
Oh,
expansion.
no, yeah, I understand that,
Yeah.
but
But,
the planning board and the zoning board can say yes, and we can still say no, so it's the chicken or the egg.
Right.
Are they looking, if we tonight say, we looked at this and no more expansion, then the issue goes away with the planning board and the zoning board? Or do we let them on the 11th go through their process, then it comes back a month later and we say no or yes?
I think, like what Ginny said, I mean, it's up to the planning board to say, yeah, they are allowed to put more spots, and at least now they're doing it legally, and town can make money, so I don't think we really need to make
Our
a judgment on
communications
them.
throughout the last 2 years, if you look at it, is, increased parking spaces will no longer be granted. That's from us.
Right.
From the Board of Selectmen, so,
Right.
I mean, that states our position every time we
Right.
send this out.
Right. And that's been going on for the past few years, my
Right, so I
understanding.
mean,
Yeah.
if anything, we should either reaffirm this position or take another position, but this is the present position as communicated a month ago.
Right.
Yeah, but does that mean that's kind of nebulous? Does that mean you can't expand it without going through the process of going through the planning board and blah, blah, or absolutely not? There are absolutely no more parking spaces to be made?
Well, I think the issue is there's no bite in a violation. So if
Right.
somebody has 200 spaces and they continually park 250 cars, what good's the regulation if there's no enforcement?
Right.
Well, that's where we were last December, January.
So I think we can say, okay, we're gonna grant increase in spaces as long as the planning board and the zoning board of appeals are okay with it. But on the flip side, we need some teeth in some
In the regulations.
violations in the regulations, because it's not fair to the people that are playing by the rules.
Right. And that was
So-
brought up at that meeting.
Right, but so the way we left that meeting, I thought that subcommittee was gonna bring back a revised regulation and present it to me. I haven't seen that, so I didn't know,
Has the subcommittee met? Because I haven't
I
heard
don't,
about it.
yeah, they haven't met since, I don't think they met since December, so
So I think that's where it's a little.
that's getting
Right.
hung up there, so we need to fix that
In,
first.
in the bigger picture, what I'm concerned about is if you've got, and I don't know where all these lots are, but if you've got the north side asking for 200 more spaces, then the south side's gonna say, well, what about me? And where's that
Right.
number? There's a zoning number that needs to be met because of the stadium and the businesses. But if you increase one area, the other areas may be underutilized. So I think I would need an understanding before we increase any more spaces of the bigger picture. And I think that's probably hand in hand with the regulations.
So as far as the first order of business would be to get the subcommittee to make a recommendation on the regulation that can be brought forward to the board. So that committee needs to, that committee needs to
Definition of
meet.
violation, we need to return that
Yeah.
fine mechanism back to the regulations.
Who was on this subcommittee? Was it the parking lot owners or
Well,
towns
I-
like Bill?
It was the
It was-
chief, it was the, I think.
Chief
Deputy
O'Leary.
chief.
Deputy
I
chief.
was there,
I was
Bill,
there.
Mary Beth,
Yeah.
Mike Sag, Steve Bagley, Chief O'Leary. Who else was there? Was Ellen Davis there?
No, that was a different meeting, I think, as I recall. Well, we can pull those folks together. I mean, we'll do that. We, obviously,
Oh,
it's.
Bill Caspar.
Bill Caspar, of course, yeah.
What we can do is put a moratorium on increase of spaces until we get the regulations squared away.
Yeah, because, I mean, there's two things going on here. We can change the regulations or beef up or address the fines, but these are businesses and their permit expires on June 30th. So either we do it tonight or we do it at the next meeting, but we've got to make a decision on the permit application. We can always say yes or no, but these businesses need an answer before June 30th.
Well, I just should put it up to the next meeting, which is what, June 23rd?
And have it as an agenda item rather than
Right.
an action item.
Yeah,
And
that's a
then
good
the
idea.
last question is, do we want to have these separate or one, right now as it stands, one vote for all of them, or do we
Yeah.
separate them?
Well, some of them have different conditions in
Yeah.
them. Then, so we have to kind of go through them one by one.
We could maybe just take the ones that have the conditions, separate them out, and
Yeah.
ones that don't, vote all of them. And, maybe by that meeting, the stadium lots, the insurance stuff will be all ironed out.
Right, so, by the next meeting, you should have an answer on virtually every one, or you'll at least have some indication as to where they are.
Yep.
So it probably is time to wait for that next meeting.
Unless the zoning board says, well, they can't act on it till we act on it. And
Well,
then
but if you're taking,
Yeah.
if you're taking a moratorium position on that, I think
Somebody needs
that's
to let-
appropriate too. I mean,
And somebody should let the ZBA know.
we can let them know.
Yeah, okay. So that was action item number 3. Action item number 4.
Okay.
Okay. Let's This is another one for the Council on Aging and Human Services. I move that the Board of Selectmen accept the donation with a value of $17,946.43 from Friends of Foxborough Seniors for a new sound system to be used for the senior center at the Council on Aging Human Services building.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion?
That is quite the donation.
Quite a generous donation. Appreciated.
Does anybody have any info on a $18,000 donation besides what we have?
Well, there was some detail in here
Yeah.
of what they were.
I wasn't sure if
doing.
anybody had
I
any.
chatted with them. It's a, a sound system, Blu-ray, DVD player, just, for presentations, for when they do multimedia kind of things, even watching a movie. It's a total revamp of the entire sound system.
That's an awesome donation.
It really is.
Okay, so motion was made and seconded on the awesome donation. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Great.
Okay, number 5. I move that the Board of Selectmen reappoint to the Audit Committee for a term of, Charles McAllister, yep, sorry. I move that we appoint Charles McAllister, reappoint him to the Audit Committee for a term expiring July 1st, 2018.
Second.
I just have a question.
Okay, motion made, seconded. Discussion?
Okay. Can you explain what the audit committee does? What it audits?
Actually, I was on the audit committee many, many years ago. And what it
you do
does is,
anything?
yeah, actually, they select the auditing firm.
That's what the audit committee does? It's
Primarily,
It's a new one-
yeah.
It's a new one
selects
on
the
me. I've
auditing?
never had an audit committee before, so.
Yeah, oh boy, trying to think of the people that are on there. But that's their primary responsibility, is to monitor and select the company, the firm that's gonna audit the town.
Okay, but they don't audit any, they don't do any audits?
No.
Oh, okay.
And then do they get the letter when there's, changes that need to be made, or the management letter that
Yeah, the
comes
communications
out?
go through the audit committee and the
Yeah.
town manager, and, but it's a very old committee. I think they
Okay.
meet twice a year.
Oh, okay. I was just curious.
So the board doesn't make that decision, nor does the board ever receive the report?
I'm
do
sure
that.
eventually it goes to the town manager and Randy, and the town manager can then bring it to the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Because an audit report is basically if there's any structural deficiencies in the town, if there's any, money mismanagement, things like that, and it's sort of an overview.
Right.
So, I'm not even sure, how often are they done?
Well, every year.
Every year?
Yeah.
I didn't know it was every year or every 2 years.
It's an annual audit.
Okay, so thank you to Charles McAllister for stepping up. The motion was made, seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
I move that the Board of Selectmen reappoint Frank L. Souza to the Audit Committee for a term expiring July 1st, 2018.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Discussion on Frank Souza. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
I move that the Board of Selectmen reappoint Robert W. Bodie to the Canoe River Aquifer Advisory Committee for a term expiring July 1st, 2018.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Further discussion on Bob Bodie? None. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Bob.
I move that the Board of Selectmen reappoint Stephen Feinstein to the Norfolk County Advisory Board expiring August 1st, 2016.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
I'll take this one.
Okay.
I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the McGinty Family Fun Day public event on Foxborough Common on September 12th, 2015, running from 11 a.m. to 3:30 p.m.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed and abstained?
Abstain.
Okay, motion carries 4-0-1.
Okay, number 10, another Council on Aging, Human Services. I move that the board accept a donation of $25 from Mr. and Mrs. James Oliver to be used for programs for the seniors at the Council on Aging and Human Services building.
I'll second that, and thanks to Mr. and Mrs. James Oliver for the donation.
Very generous. Motion made, seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Number 11, the Foxborough Historical Commission. I move that the Board of Selectmen appointment of Deborah Wendell as an associate member of the Historical Commission expiring on May 1st, 2018.
Second.
Motion made, seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, number 12, another one. I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the appointment to the Foxborough Historical Commission of Thomas P. Saban as an associate member of the Historical Commission expiring on May 1st, 2018.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. And thank you, everybody. In information packet, there's 8 items on some hearings. Any need for bringing those up for discussion or public acknowledgement?
Of the planning board, that's when they have in this temporary parking lot, 16 Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that's the only one coming up.
Yep.
Site plan review for town hall, public
Yeah,
hearing.
that'll be
Continue.
the second one this Thursday.
It's this Thursday, right?
Just another question on the floodplain management plan from FEMA. How widely distributed has this been to residents of the town?
That I don't know.
I know there was a meeting
Yeah.
the other night in, I'm gonna say North Attleboro, I might be wrong, but there was actually a gathering to discuss the floodplain. Some
Okay.
people found that they were now in it, some people found that they were now out of it. I just didn't know how widely disseminated we've taken this.
I don't know that, John. I mean, I can tell you that the issue of the floodplain changes was addressed through town meeting.
Right.
So, and the map was redefined through town meeting. So that process, we've met our obligation in terms of trying to be in compliance with the new FEMA requirements. As far as going specifically on that, I think residents are going to have to either seek assistance from either the Conservation Commission or the Building Department, if in fact they run
Right,
into an issue.
because some may find themselves in a floodplain for the first time and have to get flood insurance.
Right. Potentially.
So that'll be the place to go?
That's right.
Okay.
Probably the Building Department would be the best place to look at that first.
Okay, I'm just reading through the letter that they had sent to us, so it gives some direction on where to get the information.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Any other items?
Just the Plainridge Park Casino is, everybody's been invited to that grand opening, which is
June
coming up on
24th.
June 24th at 10 a.m.
Before we close, I just want to give a kudos to Rich Noonan and his whole team for the Foxborough Against Diabetes road race they had a few weeks back. It's 15 years in a row. The race drew anywhere between 800 to 1,000 people. Just it's amazing that something that a group of people started 15 years ago still is thriving and going. And special shout out to Chris Loftus, who is
Nice.
A young kid with diabetes, and he trained his butt off, and he finished 6th overall, and he beat his older brother Timmy. So
Yep.
he was thrilled. So
Graduated last year.
yeah, but it's a great annual tradition. The schools get involved. You know, there's the Taylor Trotters, and the borough has a group.
Club, yeah.
And, yeah, so it's really good to see that going year after year after year, and all the local businesses that support it. So, Rich and all your, team that put that all together, thanks.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day. It's a Hurley family and the Noonan family,
Yeah.
and I tell you, it's getting stronger every year. So
Yeah.
it's a good thing. Okay, I have a motion to close the hearing. I'm sorry, the meeting.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we close the meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion made in second. Discussion. All those in favor? Aye. Great. Good night, evening, everybody. Thank you.